Tampa City Council is back in session. If we could have roll call, please.
Yes, Carlson, Hurtak.
Here.
Clendenis.
Here.
Henderson. Vieira.
Here.
Miranda. And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
What a crowd. What a party.
Who's in the courthouse?
Yeah. Everybody is here to honor a legend, and Councilman Vieira, kick it off for us.
It's a great pleasure to be here today, Mr. Chairman. And Mayor, please come on up, please. And it's a great honor to have Mayor Jane Castor here with us today. It's a real honor, but before we start, I wanted to recognize all the dignitaries and other folks in the room representing bar associations. So there's a lot. So we begin with, of course, we have Mayor Jane Castor, who's here. Thank you for coming. Our state attorney, Susie Lopez, our Chief Judge, Chris Sabella, Daryl Dirks with Drug Trafficking Chief with the State Attorney's Office, Judge Marion Velez Valkenburg, Judge Ron Figueroa, Judge Francis Peroni, former Judge Rex Barbas, Judge Cheryl Thomas, Judge Darren Farfante, Victoria Cruz, former president of Tampa Hispanic Bar Association, Star Brookins, president-elect of Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers, former Judge Ralph Stoddard, David Garcia, who's here with the office of Congresswoman Laura Lee. We have Luke Johnson and Luis Laraquente with the office of United States Senator Rick Scott. We have here Judge Lindsay Alvarez, Judge Didi Pompano, Rocky Brancato with the Public Defender's Office, and last but certainly not least, Mr. John Kynes with the Hillsborough County Bar Association. So,
And federal judge Virginia Covington.
Covington, how, I did not write that. How could I forget?
Not good, Louis, not good.
How could I forget thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. And Cornelius Demps with the George Edgecombe Bar Association. Good to see you, Cornelius. I know, right? Ain't that something? But it's a great pleasure to be here today. We're here to honor Judge E.J. Salsinas, who is such an amazing man. He is a great man of family. He's a great man of faith. He's a great man of civic virtue. He's a great man of patriotism. And I just wanted to give a few words on this great man of Tampa, who we all know through so many different lenses. Judge E.J. Salsinas comes from a family that immigrated from Spain. He would grow up his formative years here in West Tampa. He is not something of a Tampa historian. He is the Arthur Schlesinger of the city of Tampa, and that's a fact. He's an amazing man. He is a man of great respect. I've been an attorney for 20 years, and ever since my first day being an attorney, heck, when I was in law school, I knew who Judge E.J. Salsinas was because his name means so much to all attorneys, but if I may say so, especial a los abogados latinos. Eso es muy importante. He would, of course, graduate from South Texas School of Law, which, of course, as we all know, is E.J. University. They have E.J. Salsinas lounge over there for the students. He would work for 22 years as a prosecutor and over a dozen years as a judge with our 2nd District Court of Appeals. He would serve for 16 years as our Hillsborough County State Attorney. And his honors, I mean, we're not going to get into them, but there's one that I think is really neat, that in 1979, he was knighted by King Juan Carlos of Spain for the Royal Order of Queen Isabella. Among many, that's one of the probably 20 that stands out. He's also a very patriotic man, a man who loves his country, learned that from his parents who are immigrants, his father who sold war bonds during World War II to help fund the war effort. If you know Judge E.J. Salsinas, he's very, very passionate about our veterans, but especially the legacy of a man that the legacy he introduced me to, which is our Medal of Honor recipient, one of 3 here in the city of Tampa, Baldomero Lopez, a man who obviously this man champions so much. But more than anything, this man is a dream maker for so many people, including people here in this audience. The late Thurgood Marshall, Justice Thurgood Marshall, once said that there's 2 kinds of people in life, dream makers and dream breakers. The dream breakers stand in the way of the schoolhouse door and deny people opportunity. Dream makers put themselves out there to give people opportunity. That's what this man has done through inspiration and acts. As state attorney, hiring the first African-American assistant state attorney in Hillsborough County, the late George Edgecombe, who would go on, of course, to be Judge George Edgecombe, after whom our courthouse is named after. He would hire, I believe, Julianne Holt, and he would hire, I believe, Judge Virginia Covington, among many, many other people. His legacy stands for so much here in the city of Tampa, but I speak today as both a city councilman, but also as a proud member of our Hillsborough County Bar Association. Again, there is no attorney who is more respected, who is more revered for his decency, for his family life, including his amazing relationship with his wonderful wife, Elsa, than Judge E.J. Salcinas. So if I may, I will turn the floor over to our mayor. Go ahead,
My
Mayor.
goodness. I don't know if I can follow that. That was incredible, Louis. But my friend, I want to say that, we are here today to celebrate you. Thank you very much, City Council, for this recognition for a very, very worthy recipient. I know that we have missed your anniversary with the Bar Association by one day, but I think all that you have done for our community clearly is limitless. And I think that the years that you have been practicing law probably outdo the number of days the majority of us, except for Charlie and I, and maybe a couple in the audience, have been on this earth. And so your service to our community is just incredible, not only in the value, but in the length of service that you have provided. And just to, same with Louis, we could be here for the next anniversary if we went through everything that you have been able to accomplish and everything that you have done for our community. But just to put it in perspective, the things like pretrial intervention, programs that you put into place, and that's one of many to ensure that individuals got a second chance in our community, and that is so important, especially when we look back decades. So I thank you for that. I also understand that your trial presentation textbook is still utilized in classrooms today. So that is an amazing feat on its own as well. So your legacy is continuing to develop excellent attorneys into the future. So we thank you for all that you have done for our community, not only from the standpoint from the podium in the courtroom, from the bench, and then from the entire legal community, all that you have done to raise the bar figuratively and literally in our community has made a difference in so many lives. So I thank you for that. And then also everything. I have been a recipient of many of your historical lectures, and they are always fascinating, simply fascinating. Your ability to speak is just incredible. But I want to say thank you on behalf of a grateful community for all that you have done to grow Tampa to this point. And I want to say a personal thank you for all that you have done for me as a mentor, and then just as an example of what it is to be a leader in our community. So I thank you, sir, and I congratulate you. God bless you.
And if I may, I believe there were 2 or 3 people who wanted to briefly speak or present anything. Is there anyone? Star, did you? I have an award. Okay, from Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Judge Salcinas. It's an honor to stand amongst you. You are a legend in the legal profession. And I'm here as president-elect of the Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers, and our mission is so closely interconnected with all of the barriers that you have broken and everything that you have accomplished in your career. So I just wanted to give you this very small token of appreciation from the Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers, and thank you so much for being a legend that we can all look up to.
Thank you very much.
Well, Judge, again, Cornelius Demps with the George Edgecombe Bar Association here, of course, with Danielle Hernandez on behalf of the Tampa Bay Latin Chamber and the Tampa Hispanic Bar Association. We just wanted to congratulate you on this tremendous milestone. You are a trailblazer and a guiding light for all of us. Even with your connections deep with the Latin community, you've done great work with the African American community as well. We've met several times in different investitures, and you have made a tremendous impact. So What we decided to do is all of our organizations have gone together on a joint gift for you. We got you some Arturo Fuente cigars. That's definitely the gift that keeps on giving, and congratulations to you on your
Thank you.
accomplishment.
And please convey my appreciation to all of the Women Lawyers Association representing here, but also to the George Edgecombe and to the Hispanic Bar. I'm very grateful. When I first became a lawyer exactly 60 years ago yesterday, there were no minority bars at all. In fact, blacks could not be members of the Hillsborough Bar. And we broke those barriers. And today, we have a much better community because we are all together as Americans.
Yes.
So thank all of your members.
So, Your Honor, if I may, on behalf of a grateful city of Tampa and Tampa City Council, it's our great pleasure to give to you, sir, for an amazing 60 years of service in the tradition of John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, honorable public service, sir. Here you go, sir. God bless you.
Thank you very, very much. Sir.
Thank you, sir. You have at it.
I have a quick question. Did you all really have to subpoena all of them to appear here today? I'm honored. Yesterday was 60 years that I was sworn in as a young lawyer in the Florida Supreme Court. It was a Friday. I came back and I was sworn in as an assistant state attorney the following Monday, which was the 18th of November, a day that Tampa will never forget, because John F. Kennedy flew into Tampa. I never saw Kennedy when he was here because my chief assistants, I was learning from them, they disappeared from the courtroom and they all went to Franklin Street to see John F. Kennedy. What happened 4 days later, nobody will ever forget where they were on November 22nd. I'm honored. Thank you very much. I love Tampa, and I commend all of you public servants. Always remember, the bottom line is, make your decisions based on what is in the best interest of our community. Thank you very much.
And now those two. Go ahead, sir, please, your center. Oh, no, they speak now. It's now
Okay, their turn.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Councilman Vieira, for bringing the judge here today. I will begin at the beginning. And I remember the first time I met you. My grandmother took me to your house, and we sat with your wife in your living room. I remember you showed me your cufflink collection, which, if you don't know, you have a store full of cufflinks. And I'll always remember that, because that was my first interaction with you, and I was maybe 12, 13 years old. But since then, you've continued to inspire me and many of us ever since that moment. And I've always looked up to you. My family's always respected you. My grandmother always praised you. My father, I could go down the whole list of family members, but it's always good. It's always positive. And when you speak, we listen, because nobody tells a story like you do, and nobody talks about Tampa's history like you do. You have a gift, you have a passion. There will never be another Judge E.J. Salcinas, and may you live to be 100, may you live longer than that. But you're such a treasure. We love you, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Councilman
very
Miranda.
much.
Well, I don't know if I could follow you like what you said, but I saw Vieira speak for 22 minutes and he took one breath. I don't know what he's on, but we're going to test him. But let me just say, when I was growing up, I remember names like Lee Duncan. We got to go see Lee Duncan. And I grew up in Ybor City, not in West Tampa. And then the next one was Nick Nuncio. And Nick Nuncio would go for that cigar at 5 o'clock in the morning at Cuervo's restaurant and say, what'd he say? Huh? And then those elections then, and you were part of that, not that you were part of what I'm going to say, but when Nuncio got beat by Lane, those were the first TV commercials I ever saw in my life, because you came back and beat Lane on one item, and on the first political campaign I ever seen in my life on TV was nothing but a room, a little desk, and a black box. And that box, they would open it up and say one thing out of the newspaper. He hired his brother for so much money. Thank you, and close the box. The next day, that's how campaigns started going on the TV. It was never on TV. See, you had, and he'll verify this, in West Tampa, you had, and in Ybor City, you had 12,000 cigar workers. You had 8,000 or 9,000 in American Can, Reynolds Can, and Continental Can Company. You had 3 shifts on yourself, and he knows it because he won many campaigns. All you had to do was stand in line and shake hands. You got to touch somebody, you got to feel somebody, you got to know somebody. Today, no one knows anybody, just in the media. So therefore, you have what? From 45 to 55% of the electorate voting to down in the teens. And historic tells me that's a wrong way what we're going. And EJ's a historic. No one knows anything better about this area than EJ Salcinas. That EJ University has sent more lawyers throughout Florida that I thought they were going to move here. But we couldn't find a grant to get them moved. So these are the things that he's honored for. He works diligently. He helps people. He pushes people up, not push them down. No matter who you are, what race you are, what color you are, how heavy you are, how thin you are. So these are the things that he's known for. And it's not because he had to do it. It's because he wanted to do it. He saw a necessity in life when he saw the differences what was going on in this country about racism. And he said, this is the first of everything in law, is that person right in front of you. And he's not loved for that. He's loved for what he did on things he didn't have to do. But he saw the difference between being right and being wrong. And he took that step forward and helped change society and this whole area. And maybe somewhere else in the country saw this and inspired someone else to be EJ Salcinas somewhere else. But there's only one EJ, and that's this one. The rest of them are imposters.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for who you are. And that cake that you brought the other day at Florida Bakery was delicious. I had some of that stuff. And you know what I found out today? I went to the bank, and the banker tells me they sold Florida Bakery. I said, oh, EJ bought that last cake? And it was taken over. I swear I'm not lying to you. I raised the right hand. I usually raise the left. And you people won't know the difference. So what he told me, McCall's, the other fella, bought out Florida Bakery. So now I knew. You didn't know it, did you? Now you have good news from Miranda, see? Finally, I got something on you didn't know about. And I found out just 10 minutes ago at the bank. So now it's owned by McCall, and he had 99 cents roast pork barbecue. They told me that too late. I didn't get a chance to go. So West Tampa is West Tampa. Tampa is Tampa, but we all live in a unit that we're all helping each other out. That's the difference we had in life when we were growing up. It was always looking for the neighbor, always looking for someone else. No cell phones, no internet, and by the time you got home, your parents knew every damn thing you had done. I don't know how, but they did. So thanks again for who you are, for your family is. You can't do what you did without a wife like Elsa. She's the strong pusher. I know you had the last 2 words with your wife, and I remember them dearly. It was yes, ma'am. But thanks again, EJ, for everything you've done for everyone in this community. Muchísimas gracias.
God bless you.
Judge or knight. What am I supposed to call somebody? A judge that's a knight? I don't know. I've never. That's
Sir.
it. Sir.
Not judge.
Sir. You know, you found some kind of secret formula about how you can be beloved and respected in your community and the people that you serve. And I don't think there's anybody in the city of Tampa that's never heard anything other than just respect and love for you and the public service. And so for all of us that are in public service, we hope to be able to follow your footsteps and be able to achieve that type of accomplishment. I don't think we could really set the bar any higher than you've already set the bar for public service. So I thank you for that. Councilman Vieira, I'd like to put a accommodation in for you and the presentation you just did. That was amazing. I think Judge, you got the best speaker there tonight. I mean, it was wonderful what he said. I don't think any of us could top that as well. You've had a life well lived, both personal, professional, and it's always a pleasure to be with you and to hear your insight. You'd be able to share that and be so generous with your life experience and things that you've accomplished and your observations. So the city of Tampa and the young people, the old people, everybody in the city is really well served by your experiences. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I will also thank you for all the work that you've done for the community, for the different, for the legal profession as a whole, but for me also personally, and our personal relationship and how much I have appreciated getting to know you, and for your confidence in me and encouraging me along my journey and really just telling me to stay the course. And I really do appreciate that. And that means a lot to me personally. And I know I'm not the only one. And that's the reason I bring up that story, because every single person in this room has had that exact same experience of just, making sure you're doing the right thing for the people. And it's always a good reminder. It's always wonderful to see you and your wonderful wife. And I wish you many, many happy years. But congratulations on 60 years in the legal profession. It just is a wonderful, wonderful honor.
Thank you.
I get to go last, so after everything, after people talk for a long time. I think John could tell me, I think I'm still an associate member of the Hillsborough Bar, because I'm not an attorney, but so I thank you and congratulate you from that point of view. But I just want to personally thank you. I think you've, as several folks said, you've been a mentor and advisor to probably every elected official in our region, or at least in Tampa, and appreciate all the thoughts and advice and wisdom you have from many years. And as you said to me before, it's not always easy. The path you took had obstacles in the way, and the most important lessons you talk about is how you overcome those obstacles. And look at where you are now and all the great things you've achieved. And I hope that you can continue to be the moral compass for our elected officials and leaders in our community, and you can continue to challenge us. Like Guido said, hopefully you live to be 120, because we need a lot more of that moral compass going forward. And also, I love to hear you as a historian. I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I think you have a voice like John Huston's voice, and it's one of those rare voices that just everybody loves to listen to, and everybody stops when they hear your voice, because it's so compelling and so charismatic. And we know that anything you say has a lot of meaning. And I've been lucky to go on historical tours with you, and I could just do it all day or for many, many days. And I hope we all get a chance to do that more, because we need to learn more from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've ended many conversations with me, and I'm sure many people, with "make us proud."
Make us proud is right.
And you come from good stock, it's another one. But I'll just say that you make us proud, and I think you are a testament of what it means to be a great Tampeño. And we should all strive to be like you and live in a way that you have. As Councilmember Miranda mentioned, from the beginning, when you became state attorney, I've read your stories, I know your stories, I've seen the history books. You've always tried to do the right thing. And that's what we should strive to do. Not all decisions are easy, but you're a perfect example of what it means to live a life and doing the right thing. So thank you. And we should be honoring you every day, not just today. Thank you very much, sir.
I thank you. On behalf of the public, on behalf of that silent public, I thank you and all the public officials, all those who serve this community. We really live in paradise, and it is in your hands. You have been entrusted with the responsibility of marking the future of Tampa. Remember, when I was born, 1938, the state of Florida was the third smallest state in the 48 states, the third smallest. Fast forward now, 85 years later, Florida is the third largest state in the union out of 50. We live in paradise, and we depend on you, the elected public officials, guiding us in paradise. Take care of it. We live in paradise, and we're grateful.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
sir. Let the record reflect that Councilwoman Henderson is in the house.
Thank you, Chair, appreciate it. Judge Sosinas, can I just say congratulations? Congratulations. I wish I was here to give you your accolades. I just admire you so much.
DJ, come up, we want to take a picture with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on up. Yeah, we'll go down there.
We'll go down. We'll go down. We're gonna take a picture.
We can have that thing in the background. You miss me this morning? Bill missed
It's like they were saying about years ago, by the time you got home, even without a cell phone and text, your parents knew everything. That was that kind of place. Something goes on and you better
So let's do. I need some breathing. I need some room to breathe. Very proud of you. Meeting.
I had no idea I was going to be in the presence of such a legend when I came down here today. I had no idea I was going to be in the presence of such a legend when I came down here today. Hope you enjoyed this. It was very nice. Your story. Yes, sir. I'm sorry to steal him away, but I'm going to let him go. I'll have him come right out to you.
Okay. Is this for Alan's?
Could you guys speak a little bit tighter?
We got all you in there.
Okay,
Second
1,
try.
2, 3. Look here and then we'll have you look at Rum's camera. Okay.
I got you 3 times.
I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting back to order. Roll call, please.
Carlson. Hurtak. Here. Clendenis.
Here.
Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda. And Maniscalco.
Here.
All in fiscal quorum.
Item number 64.
Good afternoon, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. Council, before you, you have a contract with the Economic Development Council. This is a 2-year contract. There's a cover memo, and you should have received a substitute resolution and contract. This was previously on the agenda to come before you in October. It was continued until this meeting. Since the October contract was uploaded, the EDC proposed additional changes, which are performance metrics and additional changes that are of benefit to the city in the contract. So those are some changes that happened in the last month, and that's a direct result, I think, of conversations that have been happening with council and some of the people in the business community and on the Economic Development Council's board. The EDC is here today, some of the board members. Craig Richard, the CEO of the organization, and has a short presentation to present to you. I am available, my staff is available for any questions that you may have, but again, I just want to reference the substituted contract and resolution that you should have received from the Chief of Staff's office. All right?
Thank you very much. After the presentation, Councilmember Carlson would like to use the overhead and present something, but after the presentation. So.
Sure, and if my friends in CCTV, they have a presentation to load it, please. Thank you.
Yep, it's going to come up now.
Thank you
There
very
it is.
much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Please
Thank
state
you.
your name.
Thank you. Craig Richard, President and CEO of the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council. Let me say, that's a hard act to follow. It's really tough, but it is truly an honor to be here with you today. Is this the clicker that I use right here? Okay, all right. It's an honor to be with you here today and report our annual report, as well as ask for your continued support through our contract for our partnership in economic development. Let me start our conversation with the mission. I think it's important to start this presentation and understand what our mission is, and that it's been consistent over the years, ever since former Governor and then Mayor Bob Martinez initially funded the Committee of 100, which is the EDC's predecessor, way back in the 80s. This mission is to advance a diversified local economy that is beneficial to all by attracting and expanding and retaining quality employers, talented workforce, and capital investment. We stay laser focused on our mission. And while other issues are critically important, like transportation, affordable housing, poverty rates, our important issues are important. It's important to tackle these issues through the building of a tax base. And our focus is on employers, jobs, talent, capital investment. And this in turn build that tax base to afford all of these, to build these issues in order for us to afford to tackle these tough issues. Now, the EDC is really blessed to have some absolute giants of the Tampa business community here serving as our executive officers this year, including Tampa International Airport CEO Joe Lopano, who's our chair. Our vice chair, Ron Cristaldi of Shoemaker Advisors, is also with us today. Ron, right here. Our secretary treasurer, Archie Collins, the president and CEO of TICO. Archie. Our general counsel, Ben DaChapelle of Bradley, is also here. And our immediate past chair, Angel Gonzalez of South State Bank. He's the market president for South State Bank. Angel? And also with us today is a past chair, Dr. Ken Atwater of HCC. And Ken also, Dr. Atwater chairs our foundation as well. Ken. So I brought them here today because I wanted you to see who the EDC is, who the leadership of the EDC is. And so they're the ones that provide the vision and guidance of the EDC, of your EDC. I wanted to show you our award-winning EDC team. This is a small but mighty staff that bring their own set of unique talents and experience for economic development for this community. And on a personal note, you know, I've been in this business now for almost 30 years, and I've worked in major markets like Atlanta, Tampa, and Houston. But I will dare anybody to find a more talented, committed, pound-for-pound team than this team that you have right here at the EDC. You know, the EDC is structured as a private 501c6 nonprofit organization, and this is commonplace throughout the state as well as the U.S. That's important because businesses feel confident and comfortable in talking to private organizations about their expansion plans. 80% of our funding comes from the private sector. 20% of our funding comes from fees for services such as the city's contract as well as a contract with the county. The county approved our contract last month. We received no state funding, and we're only one of 72 economic development organizations in the country that is received or recognized as an accredited economic development organization. Our contract with you is in the amount of $538,000. It hasn't increased since I've been there. And this is a fee-for-services contract. It's not a grant. It's not a gift. It's not for support. This is a fee-for-services contract, which means we provide a set of services for you, and we report on these services quarterly to you and economic development staff and the mayor. We also meet with Nicole's staff on a monthly basis. I meet with the mayor at least quarterly. I met with her yesterday. And we provide an annual presentation to you each year. In turn, the city receives investor benefits on the Circle of Champions level, which is the highest level that the EDC has. With those benefits, there is a board seat and an executive committee seat. The mayor sits on our board and on our executive committee, and she appoints Nicole to represent her on many meetings and events. So there's ample oversight for this contract and the operations of the organization. And I think it's also important to note that for every $1 that we receive from the city, we leverage that into $7 additional for economic development. Our economic development team closed 21 projects last year. And while we far surpassed our capital investment goal and our non-government funding goal, we did not make our job numbers goal this year. And there are several trends that we're seeing that's tied to this challenge. It's becoming increasingly clear and more difficult to get employers to commit to an exact number on jobs that they intend to hire and wages they expect to pay. And the main reasons for this are that there's a loss of all state incentives. Companies aren't required to report this information to anyone, and they certainly won't report it to us if there's nothing compelling them to do that. And oftentimes we ask them to report these specific numbers, as well as another important trend that's occurring, which is remote work. Employers don't really know how many people they're hiring locally. They may be hiring people out of this market, and it's hard to determine who indeed is from the Tampa area. So it's difficult for them to project those numbers. But despite the dip in job numbers this year, over the course of our 2-year contract, we still delivered 134% compliance of our contract. These are some examples of some recent projects that we've worked on. Cashcrete is an example of a local company we assisted through our business retention and expansion program. You know, a lot of folks think that we're all about just business recruitment. The most jobs that are created in a community is through its local retention and expansion activities. Castcrete is a leader in the precast concrete industry located in Hillsborough County. We work closely with our local partners in permitting assistance for the company in order for them to modernize their facilities. And with this new equipment, they're going to produce less dust and noise, and that benefits their neighbors and themselves. We continue to see strong activity on the international side. Over 40% of our new prospects generated this year have been from international destinations, particularly UK and Canada. Our most recent FDI project was Cybex, which is an Israeli cybersecurity company that plans to create over 150 jobs over the next 3 years. Links Automation. This is a project that's an excellent example of regional collaboration. As we partnered with St. Pete EDC on the announcement, since both of our organizations met with the company and provided information that resulted in them relocating their tech company from California to our region. And global shipping and mailing company Pitney Bowes announced this year it was opening a global business services center in the West Shore District. That's just an example of some of the companies that we announced this past year. Our team was once again proactively marketing the company executives within our target industry sectors and strategic growth areas through LinkedIn advertising. This year's lead generation campaigns generated over 450,000 impressions, more than 1,500 clicks to our website, which ultimately resulted in 20 new business leads for our region. And then for those of you who attended our annual meeting a couple of weeks ago, you saw the unveiling of our new Welcome to Tampa Bay video. This is another exciting tool in our marketing toolkit, and we'll be using it in our marketing campaigns this year, and it serves as an excellent way when we bring in prospects for site visits. We show them this visit, and it's a great way to get them introduced to our area. It's a short video. I'd like to play it for you right now. Where'd it go?
It's playing.
There we go. No
Is there
music?
sound to it?
Oh, the music makes it.
We can imagine.
Can I pause it? Okay.
Who was it, Little Kim or something?
Not quite. But it was a video that that was sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase and was produced by Tampa's own Diamond View Studios. I don't know if you know Tim Moore or not, but he runs a fantastic film production studio. Here we go. Here we go. All right. right. So that's an example of a public-private partnership. That's the example of how we can bring the business community to bear on our economic development efforts. So we pride ourselves in being excellent community collaborators and conveners. And this year we embarked on one of our biggest partnerships. In January, we signed a historic 5-year agreement with the Tampa General Hospital to develop and promote the Tampa Medical and Research District. This district is part of a long-term strategy to put Tampa among the top destinations in the world for life sciences and healthcare innovation. We've already hired a director to spearhead the project and lead business development efforts for the district. An advisory committee of some of our community's top business leaders has also been formed and convened, and they will help us guide our efforts. The partnership has already been recognized by the Tampa Business Journal as one of the best partnerships in the region by an Inno Award. The EDC and our foundation capital campaign team, which was chaired by, the campaign was chaired by former Mayor Bob Buckhorn, raised over $1.7 million for our inclusive economic growth strategies. One of those strategies is to bring awareness to career opportunities that do not require a 2- or 4-year degree. So our foundation launched the CertUp Career Awareness Campaign in partnership with HCC. The goal of the CertUp campaign is to inform residents of East Tampa, Central Park, and Ybor about short-term training and certificate programs in high-demand fields like welding, cybersecurity, and healthcare. The pilot program launched last fall and generated more than 32 million impressions from digital media, billboards, and bus shelters. A follow-up campaign this summer built on that success to fill HCC's welding cohort, which began in August. And the new fall campaign will include promotion of TICO and HCC's new line worker training program, which will prepare students over the course of 4 months for an entry-level job as a line worker for TICO. As a reminder, this was an initiative that was wholly funded by the EDC's foundation through private donations. We capped off another successful year with a huge honor from the International Economic Development Council. The Tampa Bay EDC was recognized as the Economic Development Organization of the Year for large markets. The award recognizes economic development organizations that have demonstrated evidence in consistent strategy, defined goals and accomplishments, and committed leadership. So all these results and activities amount to an economic impact. And the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council put together this economic impact model to measure the results of our past year. For the 1,000, even though we didn't make our goal, but for the 1,301 direct jobs, our projects plan to, of our projects, these and the capital investment of $189 million investment is projected to result in the creation of another 497 indirect jobs and about 1,653 induced jobs, which will then add an additional $812 million in local spending. I think it's important to show how the economic needle is moving in the right direction in other ways. Here you'll see how wages in Hillsborough County have grown over the past 10 years. And on this slide, you'll see how Hillsborough County wages stacks up against other counties in the state. Hillsborough is the third, right behind Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. And you can also see that we're above Florida's average wage and just below the national average. Our industry growth is also tracking in the right direction with continued growth between 2012 and 2021 and with the most recent data available. Hillsborough County's total gross regional product, which is like the nation's GDP, grew 61% while the population grew 15%. So going back to our mission of advancing a diversified local economy, I'd say we're doing a pretty good job. According to Chmura Analytics 2022 Economic Diversity Index, Hillsborough County ranks number 3 in the nation, and that's out of 3,000 counties in the country. We rank number 3 in the nation for a diversified economy. A strong, diversified local economy is important because it ensures greater stability and resilience in the event of downturns and other economic shocks. And in fact, we just witnessed the benefits of Tampa's healthy economic diversification in the wake of the pandemic. Our economy bounced back faster and more robustly than other regions as a result. Lastly, the city receives a great bargain for economic development services. For every $1 the city contracts with the EDC for economic development services, the EDC adds another $6.75 in non-government funding. And as you see behind me, we bring the best and brightest business leadership to guide our economic development efforts. In closing, we're delivering results to the city at an exceptional value. Economic development is a team sport. The EDC can't do it alone, and we enjoy a productive partnership with Nicole and her team, the city staff, the city leadership, and we enjoy working with them. By voting yes on our contract, you're supporting building a strong local economy that results in a strong tax base, and you're supporting our partnership for another 2 years. So that we can continue to build on the successes that we've achieved together. I want to thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. I have a few comments and maybe some questions.
Yeah.
First, thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
I appreciate that very much. I agree with a lot. Best place to live. I'm born, raised, and educated here.
No.
I never left and went to HCC, got an associate's, graduated from USF. I made it a point never to leave because I always believe Tampa's the best place to live. Best airport, absolutely. From the state level, there's a lot of benefits. No state income tax. During COVID, we had different regulations and rules, and we saw a lot of people moving here, which, when we're saying it's the fastest state, the fastest growing state, we see that. A couple of questions that I have. It's $538,000 from the city of Tampa.
Right.
As part of a 27-month agreement for a net total of $1.2 million. What is Hillsborough County contributing? Because I see, and I'm not getting into the name thing.
Sure.
Tampa Bay EDC.
Yep.
Hillsborough County is very large. Tampa, although it's the county seat and it's the largest municipality, from my understanding, we contribute more as a city than what Hillsborough County contributes. I may be wrong. I don't know if I remember the numbers from a presentation. Ms. Travis, do you have an answer to that?
Well, I can answer that. The county's contract with us is about $460,000. And what I want to bring your attention to is that the county, a lot of the county's expenses are actually not on the contract. For example, they provide a $1.2 million for our talent attraction program. This goes through Visit Tampa Bay, and we manage all of the content and development of that talent attraction campaign. In addition to that, I mentioned our strategic plan on several occasions. The county funded and continues to fund all of our strategic plan development and expansions and awareness of our strategic plan. The amount of funding that they provide us far outweighs what the city's contribution is in this. In addition to that, I would also say that we are on the hook for you with community development initiatives. That's not something that we provide the county.
Okay, so we're the largest contributor publicly at 12.8% of the 538. Yet, my question is, are we getting the biggest benefit beyond the rest of unincorporated Hillsborough
Most of the
County?
announcement that occur happens in Tampa.
So of the 1,300 jobs, 1,301 out of around 2,250, I believe, the majority are within Tampa city limits. Do you know the numbers or where
I
you
don't
that
have the
data?
breakdown. I can get that for you though.
So when I compare it to, like when a company does an earnings report and we see they've missed earnings, like we've missed the job goal, although there's other data saying
Right.
there's supportive jobs and whatnot, you see the stock tank.
Yeah.
Tesla sells this many and the stock and the profit and the stock, whatever. So I'm looking at it like you've missed your goal. However, what I think saves the argument is for every public dollar that we invest, so of every dollar of the 538,000, we're getting 7 times that, or 600 and some odd % return.
Agreed.
So we're getting a return on our investment per those numbers. We're turning a profit with this investment, and the profit being spending locally, growth locally. So I asked myself, and I'll close with this, if I'm a Fortune 500 company in another city, and I go, well, Florida is cheaper than New York to live in. I don't know about now, but let's say historically. And there's no state income tax, and it's got good weather and whatever. If I want to relocate my company to Tampa because I see it in the news and I say, wow, what an amazing place, do I call the mayor's office and set up a meeting? Do I call the Chamber of Commerce? Or do I pick up the phone as a CEO and say, get me the EDC? How would it work? Are you the gatekeeper essentially to getting people here? Or would they have
Yes.
other avenues?
They have other avenues, but the way economic development typically works is companies either hire a site selection consultant or they have their own department that handles real estate and corporate expansions. In any event, we market us, the EDC, we market to them. So when they make that decision on we need to expand somewhere, they know to call us.
Okay.
So
and then
we're your marketing arm.
And my last comment is, if we were to say no to this, is it more expensive for us to do it in-house? By hiring new people, more staff, putting a team together, would it be $1 million in-house cost that $538,000 could do to the EDC? That's what I'm looking at. We want to spend the money, but we want to get our biggest return on our investment, and are we doing it wisely? Ms. Travis, you got up. Would it be more expensive to do this in-house, or would it be cheaper? Could we do it for $250,000 a year and hire, one amazing person, and that they be the ambassador of Tampa, or you tell me.
Sure. So Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. We have done the cost-benefit analysis, and it would cost 2.5 times what this EDC contract is for us to provide these kinds of services internally. And it would probably take us 18 months to staff up. So there would be a significant gap in service and increased costs. It would be 2.5 times more.
Okay. Thank you very much. The only other thing, and it's not a criticism, the video is awesome, but I wish it would show more of Tampa. I mean, you showed a lot of beautiful places, a lot of places that I spent a lot of time in, but West Tampa sells itself, East Tampa sells itself. That's beyond the conversation. The video was great, but
Thank you.
we have so much to showcase, so much more
Mr.
to
Chairman, you're
showcase.
absolutely right. It's really tough keeping a video like that under like 3
Yeah, no,
minutes
I know,
with all
I
the
know,
things that we
I
have
know.
to sell. But in response to your last question about the percentage of companies that landed here versus the county, 14 out of the 21 companies that we announced were in Tampa, the city of Tampa. That's 66% of the activity.
And before I go to Councilwoman Hurtak, my main concern is, are we getting a return on our investment? And if it's $7 for every one, I think that's a fair assessment that we're not throwing the money away. We're getting a return on it, not 10% interest. We're seeing huge numbers. So I'll leave with that. Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I appreciate the chair's questions. My questions center around labor. You have your board is full of the top CEOs for a lot of the larger organizations. And I appreciate the chart showing the average wage going up, but that is not the median wage in this community, which has not gone up exponentially. Everything else has gone up exponentially. You cannot buy a house here for the average wage, not even twice the median, even twice this average wage, you can't buy a house for here. Groceries, everything. So I'm expecting a plan on how to increase wages. To me, that would be the benefit. And I'm looking for nothing else. It's fine if more businesses come. That's not an interest of mine. My interest is raising wages locally. And how you would incentivize businesses to do that. Because that's one of our biggest drawbacks. I was at a meeting of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee yesterday, and someone brought up the fact that they have 20 new real estate clients looking to put their houses on the market in January because it's simply too expensive to live here, and that the wages simply haven't kept up. 20 clients. She said that they're professional clients. They don't benefit from any of the city's, help for those who are in a lower AMI. They're all way above the AMI. So what are we doing to keep people here? My other question, I saw that you are working with community college and some of those organizations, but are you partnering with the unions at all? You had a slide up that talked about working on, I believe it was welding, but the unions in our community offer that. They offer the certification and the training along with jobs while they're learning. Do you do any type of partnership with our local unions?
Currently, we have no partnerships with the unions. Not that we don't support them. It's just that we've been working with HCC to promote awareness of those training programs that are available. In response to your earlier question about wages, I couldn't agree with you more. Wages are critically important to this community. It's one of the things that we think it's important that we continue to monitor and encourage. I think it's also important to note that we don't have incentives. As a private nonprofit organization, we don't have incentives. The state has eliminated incentives. We haven't brought an incentive deal before the city council in years. So incentives are not what's going to grow the economy. What's going to grow the economy is that we're strategically marketing to those industry sectors that have high wage jobs. And that's what we do.
Yes, and that's great for bringing people in, but I'm talking about the people who already live here.
Right.
And that's the thing that is frustrating, because if you have these really wonderful minds on your board, that is what we have to be working toward. We have to be working toward jobs for people who already live here, not bringing in new people with high wages. I'm really looking for how we're going to incentivize building up.
Yeah. Councilwoman, nice to see you.
Yeah.
As one of the business members.
Please state your name.
Oh, sorry, I'm Ron Cristaldi with the Shoemaker Law Firm. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you all for entertaining us here. Your point is very, very well taken. The Chamber of Commerce is really the entity that fosters growth and development of companies that are existing here. You may recall, Councilwoman, that about 10 years ago, it was a decision driven really by the city at the time to bifurcate out the economic development locally through the Chamber and the EDC. So it was combined as one organization in the past. The EDC was formed about, 12 years ago? Mm-hmm. About 12 years ago, with a focus on the recruitment side. So your points are absolutely well taken. As a community member, a volunteer, I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to doing that at my company, at my firm. We only have so many jobs at our firm. We employ about 150 people in the city here, but we strive to have a living wage for everybody at the firm and go way above that. And I think my colleagues are committed to that. And I would welcome the opportunity to talk with you offline on how we can talk with our colleagues at the Chamber of Commerce and others who are fostering growth in companies here locally to help effectuate that as well. It's an excellent point.
Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson and Councilmember Carlson, or do you want to wait till you go up? No, I'll go Henderson first and then Carlson.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, let Councilmember Henderson go, but if I present, then you guys can comment on both, both, and instead of going back through.
I'm reserving.
All right, do you want to do that? He's gonna
Yeah, of
use the
course.
overhead. All
If you
right,
want to go now, please.
Well, my comment was relatively simple. This was a consent agenda item and we had it pulled and I was wondering why. And now I'm actually kind of glad you were able to provide us with a lot more details regarding what you do. And then I had an opportunity to, meet with your staff early on in my journey here as councilwoman. So you've met a lot of benchmarks, which is really great. If we were grading you, you would definitely pass. The part where you are identifying the challenge is in the data that employers are no longer required to report, and the fact that we can't really measure remote workers. Can you expound upon that just a little bit in terms of why? Is there anyone sharing the data with you voluntarily, even though they're not required to? And do you have any measures to try to get this information from them in support of what we're trying to do here in Hillsborough County,
All right,
Tampa,
great.
Florida?
No, thank you for that question. It's one of the challenges that we're having because in the past, when we had an incentive, companies were required to comply with the granting of that incentive. So there was a financial reward for that submission. Today, because there are no incentives involved, there's nothing that compels them to comply with that request.
Yeah, what was the incentive?
Well, it was tax incentives, it was grant incentives for workforce development and things like that. That's gone away, and we don't have those tools at our disposal anymore. So there's nothing that compels them to do it. Now, having said that, we're taking additional measures moving forward to make sure that when we sign on or we agree to assist a company, that they agree to assist us with that information, because that's really the value that we provide. It's like we're able to report how we can, what this project will provide in terms of an economic impact. And without that information, it's really hard to gauge what that economic impact is.
Okay, so can you answer the question from the standpoint of, even though there are no incentives, has anyone shared that data with you? Any organization?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the companies, we probably have about 80% of the companies, and I'm about 80%, voluntarily disclose that information. What we'll do with the other 20% is we'll use data sources about the industry, about the company, to project what those are. And that's how we come up with some of those numbers.
So what was the percentage of you having not met the benchmark for that particular area?
For that goal, I don't have it off the top of my head. It was like 50, it was almost 51% or 54% for the jobs goal. The other goal, 189 million, over 100 million, we met the goal. I don't have the number in front of me, but whatever that math adds up to, but it far exceeds it. 134% was the total of all three goals together and what our excess over the goals were.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
all right, Councilman Carlson. Are those all your slides?
Nope, I'm just gonna do a summary.
Okay.
Did you email this to us?
Thank you, guys. No, I didn't email it to you. I can, but I wasted trees because I wanted you all to see the significance of the data there. I'm speaking as a city council member, but you all know that I have Bill Carlson, city council member. But I also have 30-plus years of economic development experience, having worked with Singapore, which is the best in the world, where I was a marketing consultant to them, working with counties and cities as far away in the U.S. as California, across Florida, and in Latin America. And have been very involved in economic development in this region. I used to sit on the board of the Committee 100 until it was merged into the EDC. And for the first couple years, sometime I was involved in the EDC. I want to thank the leadership of the EDC. Over the last month, 5 or 6 of the top leaders have reached out, and I've met with all but one of the incoming leadership, and I have a either coffee or cigar with Mr. Richards coming up in a couple weeks, so look forward to talking to him as well. It is an ongoing dialogue, and so I think doing this and having these discussions makes us all stronger. Before I start, I want to say there was a discussion about internal versus external costs. The EDC has a $4.5 million budget. We're only $538,000 or whatever it is of that. They will continue doing all these things without us. So it's not that we get zero, because the community still will get that. If we give them $50,000 or $200,000, we can still do that. I want to go back to Tampa scorecard and keep in mind that the top data analytics person from USF, economist from Florida Chamber Foundation, and also from Bieber helped me put these slides together. But we need to track the outcomes in our community, and Tampa is the red line there. And what it shows is that median household income, Tampa is, I think it's third in the state, and we can say, okay, that's great. That's not comparing us to the smaller cities, just the larger cities, but actually we haven't done that well as a city economically. And it really goes back for the last 12 years. I look back at 12 years because the Great Recession ended in 2010, and we've gone up, but we haven't done as well as we should have. There are other numbers that are really striking, and somebody in commercial real estate asked me, why would you want to show negative numbers about Tampa? Well, these are the real numbers that the companies looking to locate here find, and the commercial realtors say they look at these numbers. And so what this shows is that per capita income disparity between African Americans and Caucasians, we're second worst in the state. And I'm not going slide by slide with what you all have, just you have the bigger packet. Median household income for 2021, which is the latest number I had. What it shows, we talk about Charlotte, Austin, Atlanta. What all the data shows, we're not even close and we're not moving in the right direction. So we want to compete with our other benchmark cities. We're not only being beat by cities like St. Petersburg, we're being beat badly by cities outside. And mayor's office came back and said that, well, there's some anomalies in Austin. Yeah, there are anomalies in every city, and every city is measured a little bit differently, but we had some of the best economists in the state look at this. Percentage of middle class. What this shows is during most of the economic boom, the greatest economic boom in America's history, the middle class in Tampa shrank, and then it just barely popped up after that. Guess what? This is the same timeline as the EDC. This is the same life cycle of the EDC. Our middle class shrank at first and then didn't go anywhere. Here's the annual review that we got, and here's the slide that he just showed. The fact is that they didn't hit their goal. This has always been jobs has been a primary measure in economic development, so they didn't hit the goal, so guess what? They want to change it. We didn't hit the goal. Imagine your kid come to you and say, I didn't get an A in my class, and you say, okay, well, a B is fine, or a C is fine. Or if the teacher didn't hold standards and hold you accountable. We have a contract that requires this. What they should have done is come back and said, well, we didn't hit our goal, so we're going to give you a $50,000 rebate. 2 years ago, I tried to put more measures in and was pushed back about. This is a memo. I think there might be a slightly updated memo here. This shows the changes in the contract that staff put together, but it shows several things I'm going to read off here. One, it shows, I can't read it from here, but it shows their target is average wages at 95%. Average wages at 95%. This is the same point Councilmember Hertag was just saying. Our goal should be 120% or 150%. Why are we? It's the same thing as AMI. If we say that affordable housing is 200% of AMI, then it counts a lot of things that shouldn't be counted. The same thing here. Keep in mind, this is an organization that has lots of great members, but to be a real high-level member, you have to pay $30,000 or $50,000. The only way we can be successful is having an inclusive organization. The other thing in economic development is during the boom times, economic development groups do business recruitment. During the down times, they do retention because the retention is easier to measure. One thing we know for sure is they do an excellent job of marketing and PR. They get us publicity nationally, sometimes internationally, and they do a great job of that. I want to respond to a couple other things real fast. GDP, there's no GDP on the county level, at least the last time I looked. It is on a regional level, and you can extrapolate to the county, but you can't extrapolate to the city. There's no GDP. I just asked economists a couple days ago. There's no GDP for the city of Tampa, and that's what we care about. So we use these other numbers in the Tampa scorecard as a proxy. If we include the whole region, yes, it will do well because Pinellas EDC has been running circles around Tampa's for a long time. Before the EDC, the Committee 100 targeted call centers, and the reason why was because of the public-private partnership, and John Ramil, Deanne Roberts, and I all had to stop this because the commercial realtors were getting them to promote the number of jobs instead of the average wages, and that's how we ended up with all the call centers here, which we didn't need in back office operations. And what this chart shows, again, they added some measures of performance related to some of the criteria, but it's a very small amount, 2.5%. It should be a lot more. Imagine if we said as a criteria, tell us all the projects that you claimed for the last 4 years and get sworn affidavits to see did they hit the goals. And if they did, we'll pay you $50,000 or $20,000 per those. But they won't do it, as I'll show you in a minute. This was a list of changes that I proposed making 2 years ago. Some of them they included, some of them they didn't, and you can look at this in your list. But it's things about holding these companies accountable. Why aren't we getting those signed affidavits? Why aren't we giving more reports to council and the public? Why aren't we being more inclusive and getting more types of companies involved? Because of the lack of responsibility, the program that he was referring to a few minutes ago was called the QTI program. It was a program by the state where they would reimburse for job training, and you would have to show the state of Florida that you hit that. There's no reason why we can't have similar requirements, especially if we're going to provide incentives. There have been organizations that the city has given incentives to in the past that didn't have any requirements. So back in 2-3 years ago, 2019, I made a motion. Sorry, this is a different thing. I made a motion to try to set that as a criteria. I'll show you in a minute. Also, back in 2019, they changed the name from Tampa Hillsborough EDC to Tampa Bay EDC. Caused major shockwaves around the region. As a result, St. Pete, Pinellas, and others in Pasco aren't using the Tampa Bay brand anymore. It destroyed 30 years of collaborative work to try to change the brand. And by City Council voted, this was the motion that City Council voted on, where the chair, Vieira at the time, sent a letter to the EDC to say that we wanted them to not use Tampa Bay. You should have seen the scolding we got from them in the letter back saying, no, we're not going to listen to you. Even though you're the largest funder of the EDC, we're not going to consider changing our name. Because what happens is that the other partners in the region see it as an offense. If you looked at the editorial yesterday, just as one example, and Googled this topic, the issue of St. Petersburg Rays has come back up again. Why? Because of the change of the Tampa Bay EDC and the Tampa Bay Chamber, now Tampa Bay means Tampa, it doesn't mean region anymore. So we're going to end up with, we're going to lose the regional branding because we've called Tampa Bay Tampa. A few years ago, an intern at City Council found, because Tampa Bay now means Tampa, not a region, St. Petersburg and Pinellas won't use it anymore. And this effort is to try to, Mayor Baker tried this back in the 90s to name the team St. Petersburg whatever, and it failed, but he's trying again, and this is the editorial of the Times saying it should be St. Petersburg Rays. The point is that we're losing a regional identity and we're just using a Tampa one. A few years ago, there was an intern at the city, he was an economics major from USF, and I asked him to look at the EDC's report, and he found several mistakes worth several $1 million. So I made a motion, we as City Council approved, to have the EDC go back for the prior 3 years and restate their reports and tell us all the changes. Here's the summary page of it. Here's a list of just 2017. These are the errors. I haven't even checked the last few years. These are the errors that they admitted to just in 2017. 3 pages of errors plus a cover sheet. In 2018, another page of errors that they admitted to. 2019, another page. Like I said,
You say errors,
Please turn your microphone on.
I just,
you going so fast.
Sorry, I don't want Chair to cut me off.
So,
An example is if you say we landed 100 jobs at $150,000 each, and it's only 100 jobs at $75,000 each, that's a $7.5 million error. And that was an actual error that we found. And there's a whole list of them which you can look up. But the point is that pages after page, what is it, 6 or 7 pages of errors that they admitted to, when it came back after this, the intern looked again and found more errors. And so the point is that whatever data is being presented to you, I haven't had an intern look through the most recent reports this year. I don't know how many errors there are in it. But more importantly, the point I was making a minute ago is that because QTI does not exist anymore, they're not doing any verification of whether these companies added jobs or not, or added the investments they added. As a proxy, you can go on LinkedIn and look, if a company said they were bringing 150 jobs, and on LinkedIn it says they have 100 or 120, you can say, well, maybe a lot of them aren't on LinkedIn. But if they say they're bringing 150 and they only have 20 on LinkedIn, and I'm just using that as one example, or you could call the office, which we also did. We called the offices to find out how many employees do you have. And we found out none of them were even close. 3 or 4 years later after making the promises, they weren't even close. So I proposed a motion 2-3 years ago that City Council approved. And what this motion says, now it's an ordinance that says that if any companies get an incentive from the City of Tampa, they have to annually sign a sworn affidavit to get incentives from us and to prove whether or not they did what they said. To my knowledge, they haven't asked for any incentives since then because they know they can't show it. So why is this important? One of the great companies we've had here for years, used to be the old Reflecton, I think, was acquired by BAE and then CAE, great company that makes simulators and other defense contracting equipment. I went to the announcement 4 years ago. CAE is bringing their worldwide or national headquarters to Tampa. So in the report to City Council in the city, they would have said, look, we brought a headquarters here. We brought all these new jobs. But guess what? A couple years later, here's the headline.
And what was the reasoning behind that? Why did they?
They can tell you, but there's all kinds of reasons why somebody would say that. COVID, whatever, but here, the point is that, first of all, we found errors in the reports. But then even of the things that we didn't find errors in, there are a lot of companies, and I'm just going to give you a few examples. There are more. There are companies that said they were going to do something they didn't. So we don't have any idea. We don't even have any idea that the companies that have been promised just since I've been on council, we don't have any idea how many of them actually did what they said they were going to do. Here's one. Johnson & Johnson celebrates new Florida Global Services Center. It's not the headquarters, it's a services center, but we call it a headquarters, right? And then guess what? They come back a couple years later and say, oh, no, we're not going to do that, or not do what we said we were going to do. Here's another one that came out recently. After using Tampa for leverage, Frontier will move HQ to Dallas. This is obvious positioning. You lose a big deal, and you blame the client for not. I mean, how does this look in the industry that you said you were going after someone, and then you said that they weren't honest with you and seriously looking at Tampa because you didn't get it. Here's another one. Pfizer. One of the big wins in the last few years was Pfizer. You all know Adam Harding came in a year or two ago and said here on TV, and we can get him to come do it again. He said, with all due respect, they didn't recruit Pfizer. I did. His commercial realtor, and he recruited them. And they went to the EDC at the last minute to get some things done. Guess what? Go have conversations with the commercial realtors in town. They don't need the EDC. They can bring those deals directly to us. We could have one person in the city and have them liaise with them. And then the EDC can continue to do their marketing. They can do whatever take leads from Enterprise Florida, wherever else they want. And like I said, I'm only giving you a few examples, but here's another one. Sabtura to bring 265 jobs to Tampa, and this might have been partly under the old Committee 100, but one of the greatest things that's ever happened in Tampa Tech, and this is just one of the negative articles, but in the end they shut down and the CEO went to jail. So the point is that how many of these companies, we don't know how many of these companies actually did. If they have the data, they won't share it with us, or they haven't.
And we don't know because they're not signing sworn affidavits. Also, the former chair of the EDC sent this email to us with this list of all this data. Most of this data is what I call vanity data, or it's county data. It's not City of Tampa data. Also, this chair I met with 3 years ago and said, here are the concerns that I have that, with the experience and background in economic development, you can change the trajectory of this. If you look at the economic numbers, you can see nothing happen. And besides that, why would somebody like that write a letter? Well, it could be in part that their organization got incentives from the state and the city and the county, $6 million. That's recorded in this story, maybe more later. So, and this was, I think, under the Committee 100, not the EDC. But the point is that it's not that some of the big donors are not interested themselves. It's great that we have an organization like this, but we're outsourcing big parts of our economic development to an organization that's not controlled by the people and is not fully accountable to the people. Because what the people really care about are these numbers, which is how is our median household income going? Why do we have disparities between not just blacks and whites, but men and women? Why are we not even on a trajectory to catch up with other cities? And what are we going to do about the looming recession that's coming? These are all serious questions. We can work with the EDC. We can have a great partnership. They can do marketing. But we need to bring more of it in-house, in my opinion. And I look forward to having more conversations with them to figure out how to bring more transparency and accountability. I will end on this. Here are our choices today. Choice today, vote yes and approve the contract as is. I, of course, will vote no if we have it like this, and that's fine. Some people think it's a political win if it's a 6-1 vote and I vote no. Unfortunately, it's the people of our city that are going to suffer because they won't have the best economic development possible. And in 4 years, I'll be able to say, I told you so, I voted against this. But I'd rather us do one of these other options. We can vote to continue it so that we can all study this more, get more data, have more conversations, then come back in a month or two. Or, this is what I suggest, one of these three, we can vote no today and ask the admin, we cannot edit this contract, we cannot negotiate it by charter, but we can ask the administration, if we vote no, to negotiate more transparency and accountability. Let's add more measures in here that hold them accountable to the results. It's not just the promises up in front, but also the promises after the fact. And the staff knows how to do that. We have great experienced staff. The other choice, vote no and ask the administration to make the contract purely or mostly performance-based. Instead of being small percentage performance-based, make most of it performance-based. The other choice is vote no and ask the administration to invest part of the money in internal staff. I think we could do some combination of these, but it would be worthwhile to move big chunks of the money to at least hire 1 or 2 more people on staff. I think there's a role for the EDC. I think we can work with them, but we need to make sure we have to report to the public, and we need to be accountable to the public. And the way we do that is holding this organization accountable for our contract. Any questions, or let me come back?
I think that was a great presentation, and I appreciate it. Because I was going to ask you, what would you like to see? And you've given us the choices today, yes to approve, and then other modifications. If we are to vote no and ask the administration to invest part of the money in internal staff, we will be hiring new people, and at what salary, and who are they? Is it going to be $100,000 per employee, $150,000 per employee? Because you want highly skilled individuals to take on something like this when we're talking about a $538,000 total. We can make it contract performance-based, that's an option. Negotiate more transparency and accountability. What gets me is, for every dollar we spend, we're getting almost $7 back. So we're getting a large return on the investment. I understand it could be better.
That money's going to be there no matter what, though. That money's already donated by the private sector, and what they get is they get to be part of an organization where they're networking and getting information potentially before everybody else. So it's not that money won't exist, and we can still partner with them.
Yeah.
And if we look at what staff we could have, Nicole has hired great staff. The mayor hired Nicole, and so that means that the mayor has an idea about what to do as well. And so we trust the staff to find some compromise here, but I think at the very least, we need to better negotiate to get more accountability here, because we need to know whether any of this stuff actually happened. I showed a few cases, but there are a lot of cases where nothing happened.
All right, Councilmember Hurtak, Councilmember Miranda.
I have a question for staff. I guess Ms. Travis specifically. Did you, in this contract, try to negotiate more transparency and accountability or consider contract performance-based measures?
Yes, we have. And what you have, the contract that you have in front of you has performance metrics in there, and that's a result of conversations that I mentioned earlier that has happened with the stakeholders, with Mr. Richards over time, and so that's what's included in here.
Okay, so you were able to add some contract performance-based measures.
Yes.
I have a lot of paper in front of me. Can you expand on which ones they are? Sorry, trying to find my contract. I had it.
You have a memo, my copy.
Yeah, I've got it. I just have to find it. Oh, here we go.
On the second page of the memo, it breaks down the services, and then it shows marketing, project management, and then you have measurable outputs, which is 10% of that contract.
Okay.
And so you can see that that breakdown. The color copy I have is not a good one, but it should look something like this.
Yes. So
in that second table, you see where those measurable outputs are.
okay, so we're basically shifting just paying for jobs to paying for marketing.
No. So including all a part of the contract, there's consideration for basic services, but there are also key metrics that are outlined in the contract as well. So you do have performance-based metrics in there, but there is marketing but there is a basic level of services in there. So we're not switching
No.
anything out.
But what we're doing is we're instead we didn't line item that before, and now we are.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, before the metrics that were outlined in the contract were not necessarily written in this way that they're performance-based, that if they don't hit the numbers, they don't. But as Mr. Richard presented to you, that the trend is changing in remote work jobs, and it's harder to track that. So what you've seen is an evolution of how the industry has changed in the last several years.
And then project management, what would that just be working on specific? Like what is project management in this context? Maybe Mr. Richards might know better.
I would contend that that's hand-holding a project from conceptual all the way until, if it were my team, we handle a project from conceptual all the way until we have secured them and they're turning the key. It could be any evolution of that. It could be if a company may need specific assistance on something, we manage that project until we've achieved that outcome. Do you want to add to that, Clay?
No, that sums it up pretty well. It manages a project from the inception of a lead all the way through the announcement, meaning we work with the company to either get into the pipeline and progress through until it's a full-blown announcement, meaning we provide data, services for site tours, we show the community, we rent the cars to take them around, all of the above. This
How long does
total
that take?
project. It depends on the type of project.
Average.
On
general.
average, it goes anywhere from 6 months to 18 months.
So it would be really hard to connect this number to
Project management piece?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Okay, so again, this is just more of a service, an annual service fee.
I would say that the project management probably is the one thing that's probably the hardest to quantify, just because even on the government side, it depends on who the person is or the project is in front of you. The needs are different. So some of the projects, I've been working on a project for you since I got here in January of 22, right? And it was still not to the finish line, so we manage it.
Yeah.
There are different lengths to that.
And then the looking at the measurable outputs, and I think I'm just gonna keep beating this particular drum, but average wage,
Yeah.
I don't wanna see average wage in the future. I want a median wage, or rather 95 of the county's median wage. Like, I wanna stop using average, because you're bringing in well, and I guess this doesn't even help here, but you're bringing in high wage jobs. And that's not what we need to be bringing in here. I mean, we do to some degree, but we also need to be bringing in jobs that don't require advanced degrees. So this is the trouble that I'm having.
Just something else to consider with that. I understand 100%, because when I'm in front of you talking about whether it's affordable housing or some kind of development or redevelopment, it's a full cycle, right? It involves our education system. It involves the quality of life for our residents. The jobs that we're attracting here, the jobs that we're growing a skill base here. Because the state has removed their incentives, the QTI incentives that Councilman Carlson talked about, that's no longer there. We don't really have incentives internally to offer as well. So it's just something to consider as when you're wearing your hat as a redevelopment agency. If you're attracting jobs or want to provide incentives for jobs to locate within the redevelopment districts, you could use, my team and I have had experience in writing incentives to attract jobs that pay a certain median wage, and so you can kind of push that number. It's hard to do that without having a financial incentive to tie to it.
And I think that's the biggest concern I have, which I appreciate Mr. Cristaldi for bringing me in on. I didn't realize that this also doesn't really work on local wages, because that's my interest, and that's where I think if we're going to be putting money towards something, that's where I want my money to go, toward getting, because that's really the biggest issue and economic driver in the city. So either they take over that again, which I have no idea why you would divide that, because it's all so well tied together, because then you have three organizations trying to work together. You have the EDC, you have the Chamber of Commerce, and then you have the schools. And when you add one more group, it just makes it considerably harder to actually get things done. Two people can get something done way faster. Actually, one person really, but two people can get things done way faster than three. So how do we, so that's gonna be my challenge and my focus. I'm inclined to either continue this or to approve it for a year, but negotiate and figure out how we bring that local, or how we bring that revenue, or the local median wages up as a part of that, whether it be a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, somehow showing me how you all are working together, because that right now I don't see that. And then also obviously with the schools, like overall, like this isn't something I'm seeing, and I understand that goal is to bring in businesses from elsewhere, or retain the businesses we have. And as Councilman Carlson continuously beats on the drum of, we are going to hit a recession at some point, what are we doing? And who's gonna lead this city? I'm just confused. I don't want to not approve this contract, but at the same time, I want something else I want to see some movement on the issues that the citizens are asking us for. They are not asking us for more companies to come in. They're asking us for better wages.
Yeah, and so, we're talking about pulling the EDC in and having something with the chamber as well. I would contend that the city of Tampa is a central hub between the different agencies and nonprofit organizations, that we do work very closely with the chamber. We do work very closely with Superintendent Superintendent, say that 3 times.
Yeah.
Superintendent Ayers. And so the city of Tampa, we do have an excellent working relationship with all the difference, but again, until there's something to incentivize and to push the needle with the wages. So I think that in your capacity as council and as an agency, we are working on these things, not just independent. So I think it'll be difficult for you to send off a nonprofit agency to go work with another nonprofit agency
Yeah.
where the city of Tampa is that hub. We can talk about how we can use the resources that we have or different initiatives that we would like to do to partner with us, to partner with those other agencies, as opposed to sending this nonprofit to work with another. And I want to.
What are the incentives? What is our partnership? How much money do we give to the Chamber of Commerce?
I don't have that information in front of me right
Oh,
now.
it looks like Mr.
Yeah, I
Casaldi
can
might.
address that. I didn't mean to implicate, Ron Cristaldi, thank you. I didn't mean to implicate the chamber here, and I certainly don't speak on behalf of the chamber, but to my knowledge, the city has does no funding, has no service agreements with the Chamber of Commerce. It doesn't provide any support in that regard. But Councilwoman Hurtak, your point, the reason I jumped up is it makes me excited too, as a member of this community. It's exciting to me to hear you have that kind of focus. I would welcome, as a community member, if the city were to convene a community group to look at how we can increase that wage. I would submit to you, and I'm not an economic development expert, but my understanding is that the average wage is higher than the median wage. So by setting the benchmark of new jobs that the EDC has to create at 95% of the average, it's going to be well above the median. And there is a delicate balance between job creation, right? If we were to say we wanted to create a lot of low-paying jobs because people need jobs, we get back into the call center scenario that Councilman Carlson mentioned, and I was part of that group too, who was pushing toward creating those higher-paying jobs. But the issue that you raised, the issues that Councilman Carlson raised, are really issues that are city issues, and I don't mean city council issues. I mean us as a citizenry, us as a group of individuals who live here, work here, and play here, and they do need to be tackled. They're a little bit beyond the scope of the things that the EDC might be able to solve, although the EDC is one of those. And I would say, as an individual whose company does contribute to this effort, along with my volunteer colleagues here, we appreciate the public-private partnership. I don't know that my firm would continue to support the economic development effort if it was disconnected to the city. I think it's an important, as the managing partner of my firm, I can say for sure it's an important part for us to have that partnership with the city and to leverage those dollars. Chairman Maniscalco has referenced a number of times the leverage that the city gets on those other dollars, and it is important for us as community members. But I as one, would welcome the opportunity as a community member to put our heads together and figure out how we can create a mechanism to create higher paying jobs to move that median wage up higher. It's important for no other reason than the more money that folks have, the more legal services they can afford, which is good for me selfishly. I'm joking, of course.
Yes, but that's something I would like to see in the future is, like, what is our, we need an agreement with the chamber. If that's the one that's focused on job numbers for local, for folks who are here. So, and the other thing I'm looking at is just median, our goal should be 100% AMI. So whatever area median income is, what, 65,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. That should be the goal, because that is the middle. So so I'm not saying that we should incentivize bringing lower paying jobs like call center jobs, but bringing, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, like a solid middle class job, your median income job here, or rather finding ways to, that's where I want, I think, sure, we need money toward this, but we really need, if we're gonna divide money, 1/3 of the money to this, 2/3 of the money to raising our current wages and salary, because that's, and no disrespect, but that's much harder.
It is much harder. We do have a workforce development team, and we work very closely with Bryn McKenzie. And so I hear you. We can work on this. There's a workforce council, and I agree with you. And I think that there's much work that we can do on that. I don't believe that tying that issue to this contract is appropriate, but I think that I've taken a lot of notes from the comments that you're making, and I think that there's work that we can do with our workforce development team and in combination with our economic development team.
So I think for me personally, I would love to stick with basic services and not worry about measurable outputs, because that's not what I'm interested in. Giving some money for some basic services to help them do the work they need to do, but then really working on measurable outputs and goals with our chamber or with whomever is really focusing. I'm more interested in measurable goals for other organizations that are raising median wages, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense, but wages is just one.
I know, but there's jobs, there's project announcements, like capital
There's
investment.
capital investment, and those things do contribute to your ad valorem tax. So it's like you can't pull one thread and it not think that it will affect the whole.
Yeah,
It's
this is incredibly complicated,
It-
and I
it-
understand that it's incredibly complicated, but I appreciate Councilman Carlson
Yeah.
for bringing this forward as a conversation.
Yeah.
I think I certainly have learned a lot.
I think we learn from it, and I think that what happens is that it forces other conversations to happen, not just a conversation with the EDC, but what else are we doing within our economic development department, our workforce development? Are our resources going where we want them and need them to go? Are we measuring the right outcomes? What is the quality of life for all citizens in Tampa? So this is just one piece to the large, complicated puzzle that I've been doing for over 20 years. So I understand, I get it.
Councilmember Miranda, how do you think we should bring this in for a landing?
The way it's going now is gonna crash in landing. But anyway, you know, I'm just sitting here listening, and I'm thinking about how things became what they are today. Was Tampa here first, or was Tampa Bay here first? Did people who started Tampa say, oh, we want to name ourselves Tampa because of Tampa Bay? Or the people that live in Tampa say, we want to be Tampa, and then somebody said, oh, we're going to name that Tampa Bay. I really don't know. So my mind is going wandering, and like I always do, because I really feel that the word Tampa, no one ever got elected at Tampa Bay. Not a damn person here got elected at Tampa Bay, not one. Because it doesn't exist. It's a body of water. So then, the brand of this whole area, no matter what anyone says, is only one city. There's a lot of other good cities here, and that's Tampa. Who has the airport? Where do most roads go east, north, and south? We have to travel through what? Through Tampa. Who has one of the highest rates of being, you don't see on TV, oh, Tampa Bay, the city of Tampa Bay, become #1 relocation center in America. You don't hear that. You hear the word Tampa. So then, you have other things that came. Tampa Electric is here. They didn't use the name St. Pete Electric. However, since the Rays are in St. Pete, it's very simple why they want to go to St. Pete, because they're going to give them what they want. Let's be realistic, and I'm not getting involved in that debate. Not now, anyway. But what I'm saying is that I have to correct him. Somebody said, well, he lied to me. He got involved. So what I'm saying is this. They deserve to be called St. Pete Rays. They're there. They're in that community. They're in the 880 acres for development rights, and that's going to cost a pretty penny. Why are they not in Tampa? It's only very simple. Tampa wanted them, but Tampa was not going to carry the expense to some degree. They negotiated that contract. God bless them. May all people live happy. So what I'm saying is, no matter what happens, the city of Tampa, like it or not, is the center of conversation, not here, but throughout the United States and throughout the world. Who has direct flights to somewhere that somebody else doesn't have? Tampa. Who has more flights to anywhere that somebody else doesn't have in this area? Tampa. Who has the largest economy? Tampa. Who has the most bald-headed people in Tampa? Tampa. I mean, I gotta come up with something to make a joke out of this thing, because it is a joke. We're #1 and we still don't like it, but the people like it. And I understand it comes with a risk, and the risk is that now because of the volume of money coming in. Somebody buys a house for $400,000 and somebody bought for $8. They say, oh, look at me, I'm going to retire now. They can't buy another house for $400,000. Let's face it. But I didn't sell the house and I didn't buy the house. That was a contract between two individuals. So now let's go further. When that contract was signed in 1998, all of a sudden became Tampa Bay Water from West Coast Water. They didn't name it St. Peter Clearwater where the office is at. They named it Tampa. So, they like you or they don't like you, but they're using your name. It's like everybody born with some same last name. It doesn't work because that's human. That's blood. This is no blood. When you name a city, it's a city. It's anything else. So what I'm saying is we want to argue about prosperity. We are prosperity. We don't like it. Downtown years ago was nothing here. Nothing. Other than the old city hall. The building next door wasn't here. 2 buildings across the street that Bill Poe did in 1975, 76 era wasn't here. There was nothing in downtown other than the jail and a couple of individuals looking to go to jail. That was it. I'm being very sincere. I could leave this office in 1974 and 75, never look anyway, and never hit anybody because there was no one walking here. The sidewalks were up during the day, taking out at 5 o'clock, they roll them up, put them away. Nobody was using them. We put a convention center without a convention hotel. Prior administration back, Greg Greco bought the Marriott. All of a sudden, what happened? Another hotel, little piece of peace. All of a sudden, the gentleman comes in and says, oh, I like this place. Even if it's called Tampa that nobody likes, but I like it here, I guess. And he started looking around. And he said, whew, they got rail, they got, not that kind of rail that we need. They got train station, they got an airport, they got a nice people, they have a great people that like to work. I'm going to start something here. And he did. And we're still not happy. He bought a sports team. They can't win every day. No one can. Still, they said, hockey in Tampa? Are you kidding? The Cubans can't skate.
We can.
I can skate. What are you talking about?
But I like to see that. But anyway.
I'll show you.
So what I'm saying is, all of a sudden, it's filled every event. Whether I go there, don't like it, it is filled. So something happened there. Then all of a sudden, another restaurant. We have more restaurants now here. You can go to every restaurant 1 day a week for a year and never hit all of them. Where you had maybe 10 or 15 at one time. And we're still not happy. I guess we're going to never be happy. So what I'm saying is, you know, City of Tampa didn't call themselves Tampa Bay Water. Tampa Bay Water called themselves because of what? The city that had the most prosperity was the city of Tampa. Period. And I'm not bragging on Tampa.
Yes, you are.
Thank you for correcting me. And what I'm saying is that it's a city that has the location, it's a city that was destined. Young kids, I have 8 grandchildren. More likely half of them will be living somewhere else. That's how it was. You went to college in upstate, or you went to Alabama, you went to Georgia, you went to Michigan. More likely you stayed there. Why? They had different amenities. No one in my family all went to school, all have, most 3 or 4 of them have master's degrees. They're all doing well. And where do they live at? Tampa. And their salary is way above the average salary. Not because they're my grandkids, because they studied and came back to raise their family here. And they all, most of them got jobs in tech companies, in management of one thing or another, in hospitals, and different things. And so I'm telling myself how lucky I am that they're here. The law firms are here. I don't see one law firm here that's gone bankrupt. So there's gotta be a lot of business, because there's a lot of attorneys in Tampa. So what I'm saying is that it's a hub for everything, and we're still not happy. We ought to call ourselves Unhappy Tampa. And people come back and say, oh, I'm happy, what about you? Oh, I'm not happy because I live here. I was born here, but I don't like it here, I'm gonna move. You ain't moving nowhere, you're just talking lip service. No one's gonna leave Tampa. None. Where are you gonna go? You think it's high here? Anywhere you go, it's gonna be higher, just about. It is getting high to the top, I'll admit that. So what I'm saying is, the sports team do it, they use the word Tampa for a reason. Not because you and I live here, it's that they do it because the area compresses the population of all around us. Tampa is the one that has the most synergy, most energy, and most places to go and most things to do. So St. Pete I love. Clearwater I love. Pine Island beaches, I love them all. But it's still Tampa. Plant City is growing fantastic. Lakeland going to double in size. These are the things that we need, and we're still not happy here. We have an unhappy population, not in the citizenship, but in us, because we say we're not happy. I'm happy as hell.
Me too, Charlie.
You know, and I was born in Tampa, and I'm going to be buried in Tampa. Now, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. So what I'm saying is that we have the best of everything. The schools. Name me the schools. You never heard of schools in Tampa before. All of a sudden, HEC started a little thing. They saved Ybor City, them and the sheriff, when they moved in. If not, Ybor City would have been gone. There'd been no Ybor City. All we had was prostitutes, tumbleweed, and drunks. And that was it. So HEC started. The campus at HEC is, it's everywhere. Here, Plant City, Tampa, Brandon, area, other places, University of South Florida. That was where people used to go hunt. They didn't have to go to Ocala. They had deer, they had everything there. Until what? Nick Moose, you bought the property. University of Tampa, University of South Florida. University of Tampa. When I went there, it was about 1,400 kids and one old man. Now, by population, it is larger than what? Princeton, and larger than Wake Forest in population of students. They have more buildings there in the last 10 years than more than likely anywhere else. That's why I don't mention names, just to the east of us, what you see, there's only half of what's coming. The other half is yet to be built. And we're still not happy. Everything is new, and we're still not happy. So I don't know what's happy, but I'm happy as hell that I'm here. And I'm happy that my family's here. And I'm happy prosperity doesn't come with one avenue on one track. It comes a little bit from everywhere. They put it together, and it's like cooking a good bowl of chili. It tastes good when you're finished with it, not when you're making it. And that's what Tampa is. It's a bowl of individuals from all races, all colors, all nations, everything else. Everybody speaks a different language. Everybody doesn't look alike. And everybody's happy. Well, I thought they were. Don't ever do that to me again. I'm only joking with you.
It's too late.
I have no control
But
over
anyway,
that.
I think you got the drift. Be happy. You got everything you want. Maybe you don't know it, though. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Miranda brings up a very good point. Be happy. And so many people are miserable. Anyways, Councilman Vieira.
I
Do you-
was
do you
going
have any
to make
ideas
some.
how we
I
wrap
was
this
going to
up?
make some comments, but I mean, we've been on this for over an hour and a half, and I suggest, and again, if people want to talk on the motions, I make the motion to move the items. Again, I do have thoughts on them. But I think we got to get this train rolling.
Wait, okay. Councilman Clendenin.
Yeah, I kind of, to bring it back in, kind of where you're going, Councilman Vera, is, revisiting the issue. We start with the mission, and I think the mission is well stated. One, tell us who you are and tell us what you're accomplishing, and I think that the mission spoke for itself. So thank you for bringing that forward. fee for service. I mean, just recapping where we are. And we, clearly staff came in and said we are getting fee for service and we're getting a return on the investment. Economic development and some of the things that my fellow council people have spoke about requires a lot of oars in the water, and no one organization is going to propel us forward. It requires multiple organizations, multiple efforts, including city staff and county staff in this, with our partnership, public park. And the fact that that public funding makes up a very small percentage of the funding for this organization, I think tells a story. That in our economy and how we are structured and how we structure our economy, you follow the sign of private business that is accountable, especially these publicly traded businesses. And when they invest in organizations like this, I think it's money. They believe that it's money well spent, and they're accountable to folks as well when they invest their corporate money and their hard-earned money. So I think that we're in a good place. I think and so often what I've seen in the short period of time that I've been on city council is, and we had this conversation among some of us about expectations. Sometimes we are responsible for leading folks on to unrealistic expectations by setting certain standards that are outside of scope and scale of where we should be. And I think that's maybe part of this discussion is maybe the expectations of the organization from certain folks and members and maybe members of the public, have gotten out of skew with where that mission is. And again, the mission tells us who the organization is and what they're here to accomplish and whether we're getting a return on investment for that mission. So I'm very comfortable with where we are, and if council is ready, I am also ready to move this motion forward.
Before we do, I'm gonna have Councilman Carlson have the last word because he's been asking to speak, so, and then we'll
And I'm
take a
happy.
motion. I have good days and bad days, but overall, go ahead, sir.
I just, there are a lot of people in the audience that we could thank for lots of different reasons, but Councilmember Miranda mentioned HCC and how it helped turn around Ybor years ago, and I want to thank President Atwater. His arts department in Ybor is phenomenal, and the people you have there are fantastic, and they are helping to transform Ybor, and they're going to be at the heart of moving Ybor into what it's going to be in the future, and so we couldn't do that without your support, so I want to thank you for that. Number two, the chamber. I was on the executive committee of the chamber for years. Ron Cristaldi was chair. The chamber in the old days when they had the Committee 100, we'd say the chamber creates the environment, and then the Committee 100 recruits the businesses or helps the businesses grow. The chamber doesn't do the normal economic development things. They do networking. They help to advocate for issues at the state level, sometimes the local level, but they're not involved in the core part that most people think of as economic development. All that quality of life stuff is part of economic development, but it's not the core part that most people think about. Several of you talked about different iterations of things like expectations. The chamber does not do the parts of economic development that we were just talking about. There are other organizations that do bits and pieces of it, but the EDC purports to do not just recruitment, but also retention and expansion. Well, that gets a lot into how you affect average wages of the people that are here. Even the companies are moving. Most of the people won't come from somewhere else. The EDC also did, not in this presentation, but other presentations talked about workforce development. Well, there are other organizations that do that, but now they're wading into that area. They also are proposing creating some processes in East Tampa, and I've gotten a bunch of calls from the partners who say, why is the city funneling money through the EDC to do things in East Tampa when we can just fund those groups directly? And so it's entirely possible for us to work with those groups if we had more staff. Right now we don't have the staff. The two big issues here are, one, because they didn't hit the goals, they reduced the results. They reduced the expectations. Number two, even if they hit the expectations, as I showed, there's no accountability beyond the announcement. Most likely, most of the projects they're working on didn't hit the number of people, the capital investment or anything else. And we need accountability for what they say they're doing. On the marketing side, I don't have a problem. I think it's $176,000 or something like that. If we just say we want to fund marketing, that's fine. But all this other stuff, we need accountability, and that's what I'm asking for. And I know
Councilmember Vieira is going to make a motion to move this forward, and it may pass. If it's 6-1, as I said, from a political point of view, that does not affect me at all. It hurts me personally because I think we're not standing up for the citizens the way we should. We're not protecting them the way we should. We're not changing the trajectory of economic development the way we should. My proposal would be that we continue this, or either say no, or that we continue it for 30 days so we can get a better deal, so that we can add the accountability in. I could spend a lot of time grilling Nicole or Javier on what we could add in this, but this is in some ways much less than what we had before for the same amount of money. We're the biggest investor. We're investing way more than anybody else. Look, we didn't even talk about what the other cities put in. We should not be investing at this level and relying on them to the extent we do without having more accountability. If you all want to vote yes, fine, but I definitely am going to vote no if we continue today.
Who would like to make the motion then?
And
Councilman Vieira,
if I
please
may,
restate your motion.
yes, sir. No, and I'm so sorry. What numbers are these here?
This is item number 64.
Okay, item 64. So again, just very, very briefly, because again, we've been on this for an hour and 45 minutes and a very good discussion, et cetera. I just don't want to restate things that people have said before very, very well. And I appreciate all of the comments that have been made, including Councilman Carlson, Councilman Hurtak, talking about wages and different issues that are very, very important. When I take a look at the economic numbers of our city and our region and the area, there are things that obviously we have to do better on, but there's so many different players at the table that have to deal with that. You take a look at apprenticeships, things that we can do in the city of Tampa, workforce development. We passed a wonderful apprenticeship ordinance a few years ago here in the city where as a body, we do what we can do. You talk about the public schools. You talk about reaching marginalized communities. I'd like to see and talk to Mr. Richards and others what the EDC is doing to helping their members, encourage them with returning citizens. Such an important part of our community with many marginalized communities. Mass transit, you talk about the big thing that deals with wages here in the city of Tampa. I'm chairman of the HARP board. I mean, that is a huge issue. So in other words, my point is that, what's that line in the Sollozzo in The Godfather? You think too much of me, kid. That is, to put all that on the EDC, and I don't think anybody's doing that, but inadvertently that may be the point, right? I don't think is the way to go in this. So again, I could say a lot more, but I won't, but I do move this, if I may, and I appreciate the thoughts of everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Clendenin. Let's have a roll call vote.
Henderson,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Miranda. Yes. Carlson.
No.
Hurtak,
Yes, with caveats.
Clendenin,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson voting no.
Oh my. Yes, ma'am.
My caveats are that we absolutely have to have a larger conversation about this going forward, and I think that's what this did. So I'm going to propose, and I don't have it formulated in my head, but I hate to say this is the first open workshop date, but it's April of 2024. I would love to talk to you, Ms. Travis, and then for you to maybe talk to other council members, because we can't do it anywhere but here. And I can't ask other council members for their input, but a workshop on this very item. What does the EDC do versus if the chamber does not focus on those types of raising median wages, who does? What are they doing? How do we put our money there? And how do we get these groups to work together? Mr. Cristaldi mentioned some type of commission or group, but I think for us to be able to, instead of the hour and a half, which was a good hour and a half, I don't complain, but I think we could have another more targeted discussion about this, where I would love to discuss some of the issues that we all seem to be running in circles about.
When do you want to set this workshop?
I said April 25th, which is
Okay.
the first open workshop date that has space.
Councilmember Carlson.
I'll second that, but one thing I want to mention is that after I presented the Tampa scorecard for the first time 3 or 4 years ago,
I made a motion, which the council supported, to create an economic advisory committee. And we put 24 people on it, which included the EDC, the chamber, and NACP, lots of other groups, all diverse groups represented. I got Mike Bloom from Corporate Relations at USF and Moaz Lemium, who was the Dean of the College of Business at that time, to go through the data and talk to everybody about what we needed to do to move the city forward. The mayor ended up running that committee, and at the end of it, they presented the recommendations, and I can get my aide to circulate the results of that, or you can Google it. But we went through a long process. Unfortunately, nothing happened after that. And so we have all that work that took 6 months of 24 people in the community to talk about how to address all these issues, and we need to figure out how to do that going forward. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to add that to my motion then, that we receive the data from that before that conversation.
The Economic Advisory Committee that council set up, Nicole will have you have that report, right?
I should, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
if you
so-
don't, let me know.
I'm pretty sure that it is.
Yeah, so if we could get that report and then, again, just talk to us individually, we can kind of come together with more focused. I want to have a focused conversation, and I think if each of the 7 of us, if we have something we want to focus on, I need help too, focusing, to be honest, and I know you can help me do that. So I appreciate everybody's time today. I really do. I think everyone in this room really cares. And we just need to figure out how to work together to make it all happen. Again, though, my focus is always going to be on the median income being raised.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, second from Councilmember Carlson, correct? For the workshop, April 25th, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We have 2 more items on the agenda. One council member will be leaving. Next is item number 65. I know there is a written report. I read the written report from Mr. Bide regarding some stormwater issues and other updates and improvements at the Swan Circle Park. Mr. Bide, before you begin, very good report. Thank you for your response and all your hard work and your team. If I send the memo to my constituents that were requesting this information, is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to be transparent and show that the city has been responsive in what's coming up, but there are flooding issues when there is rain. Regarding the storm drains, there were issues regarding lighting, and you addressed with TICO and everything, and I appreciate that. That's really it. You answered my questions in that memo. I appreciate you being very patient and standing by. But I wanted you to be here just in case you wanted to add anything else, or if other council members also had questions. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Vic Bide, Director of Mobility. Just wanted to add that we should be out there after the week of Thanksgiving, so about 10 days from now, making some of the changes, especially as it relates to the pavement and channelizing water to the stormwater system.
Okay.
And then, as you mentioned, we're working with TICO on the lighting and some of the other things. So,
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to relay that to my constituents, and I appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Hurtak.
And I wanted to reiterate how much I appreciated your memo. I told you this during our prep meeting, but I really loved the visuals, how you showed exactly the issues, and the way that we were able to find a possible solution that is very affordable. Finding that affordable solution, seeing if it works before we do anything more drastic. And I really appreciated the light and the scales of the lights. I think that enabled me to understand, and hopefully the public to understand, what's going to be happening in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Thank you very much, sir. Do we just need a motion to receive and file that, Mr. Shelby? Okay, may I have a motion? Motion from Councilmember Clendenin. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. All right. Last item of the day is item number 66. Yes, sir.
Honorable Chair, council members, I'm Lee Huffstetler. I'm the city's chief accountant. I'm here today representing Dennis Rojero, the CFO. He's out this week with a family issue he's taking care of. So he asked me to brief you today on the potential for expediting rental assistant payments. So I convened a meeting. I held a meeting with the director, Kayon Henderson of Housing and Development, and I included my payables supervisor, because he makes the payments, and I included the banking supervisor, because some of the options go through him, or yes, and I included the T&I lead who helps us do all this through the computer. And what I was really trying to do was just find out where we are. And what I found out is that we process about 200 a month now of these rental assistant payments, and they get as high as 500 a month when we're heavy. And when we are heavy, it is a load, it is a burden. You can imagine making 500 extra individual payments a month. And so we have staff that carry that load when it happens. But what I found out as we talked to Kayon and the rest of us was that it's not only a burden, that's not the right word, but it's not only a heavy load for my staff, but for her staff, because she's handling those individually as well. So not only does she sign off on every one of these system requests, but then we process them individually. So we held the meeting and we talked, they track out there in housing, they track all of this activity in an Excel spreadsheet. And so one solution we discovered was, instead of us doing these one by one, we can upload this Excel spreadsheet wholesale, it's done. And so that would save her time, she was happy to hear that. That would save my staff time, we were happy to hear that. So that is one solution that we're gonna take immediately. Now, it's not without complications, because when you do an upload wholesale using this Excel technique, it does not capture the data properly to report it to the IRS. So it's not without faults. Let's see, what was the other thing we found from that as well? So we process the payments now on Thursday, and we mail them out on Friday. So that means the landlord probably doesn't get them till Monday. So that's 5 days. So could we shorten that? Well, we could pay them, instead of on Thursday and Friday, we could pay them on Monday or Tuesday. There's nothing prohibiting us from running a separate batch just for these payments. So that's another idea, is to just do them a couple days earlier. At least then we don't lose Saturday and Sunday. And instead of 5 days, maybe it's 3 days. That was another idea that came out of this. It's a manual process, and I wanted to share with you that it was a workaround, right? When we first started these assisted payments, we thought it would be for that first year, but then it turned into 2 years, and now it sounds like we're probably going to do this for longer because we want to do it. So what was a workaround, in my mind, as I thought about this, we have to come up with a bona fide solution and not just do a workaround. So we're considering that. We have had some come back from the post office, right? And we've had to actually hand deliver them, because even though we're mailing them to the correct address, they're not getting them, the post office isn't delivering them. And even though the landlord may know that the city is supporting these assistance payments, they will still take action if the tenant is late. So of course, we don't want that to happen to people we're trying to help. So the first improvement was to upload the Excel spreadsheet. The second improvement is to do them earlier. And currently it's a workaround. So one idea that came out of all this was to pay via ACH. And ACH would be immediate. If we did an ACH on Thursday, the money would be there Thursday. So that would take 3 days, 5 days, turn it into one. So we have been looking at ACHs in the past, and I'm going to give you my version of it. It's a very not sophisticated version, but when we explored ACHs, we saw that there were 3 layers. A very basic layer, which probably is, I sent you $100. And then there's a moderate layer, which is, I sent you $100 for something. And then there's an advanced layer that may say, I sent you $100 for Joe, Sheila, Sam, and Bob. You know, it includes more information. Well, that's the sending side. On the receiving side, they also have a system, right? And so they may have the basic level, they may have the medium level, they may have the advanced level. If we're not on the same page, we can send the landlord $100 for 5 tenants, but if they're at the basic level, all they're going to see is we send them $100, and then they're going to call me and say, why are you sending me $100? I thought about that as I was typing that up today, and I thought, well, there could be other workarounds that we could solve that. At least we're getting the money to the landlord in one day. It can happen, right? But I wanted to share that with you so you get the flavor of what I'm trying to figure out in my head. So we looked at ACH, and if we're not on the same page, it makes it harder. But we could do a workaround. We do use ACH today. We pay our TICO bill. We have a lot of TICO invoices that we pay through ACH. But, like I just said, initially, the TICO system could not accept that information because it's a lot of information. And they could not process one of these ACHs in maybe the moderate or advanced. It just wouldn't work. So we had to add other software. So we send them the money via ACH, but this other software called Energy Cap sends them all the relevant information for all these electric invoices we get. So my point is, I'd like to get away from a workaround, and we'd probably have to deploy a real solution, a piece of software of some kind. And as we consider the workarounds, it's a challenge to reconcile this, right? Life happens. People say you pay, people say you didn't pay. If we can't reconcile this, if we continue to do workarounds where we're not on the same page with the sender and the receiver, and we're just sending it to them, but sending them an email that said, hey, I paid these 5 people, but then everybody gets maybe messed up, it makes it challenging. So I think we need to find a bona fide solution. So I was on the call with Councilwoman Hurtak the other day, and thank you. I'm going to put it in my own words. She said, well, this is the sign of the times. You've got to use ACH. You've got to be more sophisticated. So that may not be exactly, but she said that, right? And I said, okay, thank you, because that was a message to me that I got to get going. So we got on the call with the bank yesterday, and guess what the bank rep said? This is the sign of the times. This is where the city of Tampa needs to be going. So the bank was excited to hear that we're interested in doing more, better. And in fact, they have other solutions besides ACH. So my real point, the last sentence, and then I'll get out of here, please. I wanted to give you a quick briefing, but we did look at potentially paying it via credit card, because if a landlord takes credit cards, then they should take the city's credit card. But that would be a manual process. And we looked at potentially paying it via wire, but wires are expensive, and again, it's more manual intensive. So my next step is to learn from the bank what is needed to implement ACH or other solutions, and not just for the landlords. I think landlords would help here, but I want to do this for all of our vendors, right? This is a long-term solution. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions you have.
Councilwoman Hurtak, your rebuttal.
Thank you, and I greatly appreciate the conversation we had yesterday and the fact that or Tuesday, and the fact that you've already reached out to the banks. Absolutely, ACH is, it's the sign of the times. When I get paid for my other job, I get paid from sometimes small NGOs in third world countries, and if I can get that done, then I'm sure we can figure this out. So I know that you told me on Tuesday that Hillsborough County also uses it. Have you been able to talk to any counterparts at Hillsborough County about how they get this information?
Thank you. Yeah, that was in my notes, but I missed it. Thank you. No, I haven't talked to them.
Okay.
But they use Oracle. We use Oracle. And in my little bit I know about them, they use OnBase for some things. Well, guess what? We just implemented OnBase. So I'm excited. I think part of the solution is technology driven, and as we mature and get better with our technology, I think the solution is coming. So thank you.
Great. Well, I appreciate the start to this, but when do you think you'll have an update for us in terms of, so if I ask this to come back to us, when do you think that we might have some more movement on this to actually come up with a solution?
Right, so, because I knew you were going to ask me that today, and I'd say, well, I can do it next week, next month. I don't want to oversell though. Let me get with the bank. Let me find out.
How about the beginning of January, right after? And if that's not enough time, all you have to do is just reach out to Kelly in my office, Ms. Scharf, and she will. We will just simply ask for a continuance. But I think a month and a half to at least give me an update is enough time. So that would be on. Yes. 25th is a great day, yes, January 25th. Yeah, that was also nice, but January 25th is
We
soon.
have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else?
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shelby, that concludes our agenda, right? No, just in case you had anything to add. If not, I'm gonna go to new business.
Well, I have something new business, but that includes, Madam Clerk, does that include the agenda?
Okay. So I'll kick it off here. I'd like to make.
Councilman Maniscalco, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a great day. This is the season of Thanksgiving, so.
I'm happy.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion. During public comment today, we heard some issues about code enforcement, about permits, about several complaints from the general public regarding inspections, and I've heard this story over the years. One inspector says this, or they say to do something, and then they, things keep changing, or they keep finding new things. So my motion would be, because the name J.C. Hutchinson was brought up, someone from that department, whomever would come to council, and explain to us the new policies or current policies of code enforcement, how they work, if they've become more, I don't want to say aggressive, or more involved than they have in the past, because it seems like perhaps new programs have been adopted, and they are stepping up their enforcement, but perhaps they might be enforcing a little too much. And again, we've heard from a variety of folks in the community regarding that. So, and the date that I'd like to pick, January 25th is a regular council meeting, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, January 25th, regular council meeting under staff reports.
Mr. Chairman.
January 25th, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon again, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrative Development and Economic Opportunity. I listened to all the public comments this morning, and some of what you heard was construction work without permits. You do have a workshop on, you have us coming to the workshop in February.
Okay.
To talk about cracking down on illegal construction work. And so my suggestion would be to have it on that February workshop,
Okay.
since we'll already be coming to you.
So let
with that.
me change that date, not January 25th, but to add this discussion regarding things that I've already mentioned in conjunction with the illegal construction without permits and whatnot, that we add to that discussion, as you've heard the public and their concerns this morning, for the February workshop.
We have a
So
motion.
that's February 22nd.
February 22nd.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco to add that to the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. Thank you very much. Yes, Councilmember Vieira.
Yes, sir. And there's always a joke, many of y'all have heard in the Hispanic community, that they Happy Sam Gibbons. So that's just kind of funny. Always remember that. Two things, if I may. On January 27th, we have it's going to be Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I wanted to invite a friend of mine who I know y'all would just love to meet, by the name of Nat Ross, who's actually a survivor of Auschwitz. He was a survivor of Auschwitz. He's 101 years old, and I'd love to have him and some other individuals will be here, but just for a brief presentation by him for that day on January 25th, if I may.
January 25th under ceremonial, correct? All right, very good. Great motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from? Second from Councilman Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, sir?
Yes, sir. And then very briefly, second, I had a motion for, I don't know if it's on the agenda in the future, but on a Veterans Advisory Committee for the mayor, and something came up. A lot of us attended the Veterans Day event at Vila Brothers Park, and the committee kind of popped in my head because Martha Vila, I know, expressed this to a lot of us, saying, hey, listen, when I'm no longer here, is this stuff going to continue to go forward? And that's kind of why I want a committee like this, just so that we have a separate committee that looks at days like Memorial Day, Veterans Day, et cetera, Gold Star Parents Days, et cetera, just to have the city commemorate that formally. The county always does a great job on that, and I always think that we should step up our patriotic game over the last few years. So, and I think this committee would go a long way for that. So just an update on that, and we can do it in the first week of February of 2024. Yes, sir. An update on the status of the proposed, you can call it the Mayor's Veterans Advisory Committee, the City of Tampa Veterans Advisory Committee. Whatever.
Actually,
yes, sir.
On December, I don't know the status of it, but on December 7th coming up, staff is supposed to give
I'll
you
be
an
darned.
update.
Okay, I must have missed that, Mr. Massey. Thank you. So cheerfully withdrawn. Thank you, and I'll wait till then.
All right.
Thank you.
So no other motion. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. Yes, Chair. I would like to make a motion to award the Tampa Organization of Black Affairs a commendation celebrating 44 years serving the community in the city of Tampa, and to present it to them at the Martin Luther King Toba Breakfast, January 15, 2024.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anything else,
Thank you,
ma'am?
Chair. Yes, also, it is Black College Football Weekend. I know y'all don't know what that means, right? I'll explain it to you.
We know. I see FAMU. I see. We know.
Yes, I'm wearing Florida A&M University attire. Today, the entire entourage delegation from Florida A&M University landed, well, they landed yesterday in the city of Tampa to recruit Hillsboro's finest students to attend the #1 public HBCU in the United States. And I've been doing this with Hillsborough County Public Schools for several years, so I just could not miss it. There was no way to get around it. So I know y'all missed me this morning.
We missed you, and thank you for.
But anyway, yeah, so just wanted to say go Rattlers, and of course Florida State is playing Florida this weekend. I'm not gonna say who I'm cheering for, Councilwoman Hurtak. I'll just say that they're playing.
My wife is doing her master's with
And
Florida
everyone-
State, so I have no
Happy
choice.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I have three. I'll get you the third one when I'm done. Motion number one, a request by the Planning Commission to remove TACPA 2218 from the November 30th, 2023, 5:01 PM transmittal public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilman Vieira.
Strong hook of removing. All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay,
anything else,
next,
sir?
second one, a request by the Planning Commission to remove TACPA 2218 from the February 22nd, 2024, 5:01 PM adoption public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Enthusiastic second from Councilman Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very
And-
good, sir.
And pivoting, my motion number three is that staff to report on what it would take to create a process to accommodate vendors on the Riverwalk outside of special events, and report back on April 18th.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yes, sir. Anything else?
That's it.
Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you. When I joined council, I took over John Dingfelder's seat on the AHAC board, and continued after my election. The seat, which was 3-year term, expired in September, and I would like to continue to serve on the AHAC board. And if there are no objections, I would ask someone, and this is the city council position appointed by city council. So if there are no objections, I'd like to ask someone else to make a motion to have Mr. Shelby bring a resolution to council reappointing me to my first full term to AHAC.
Do you have any performance reviews?
Yeah, would you like to make a 3-minute presentation in front of council by
You know?
stating your name first?
Yes, so we can really decide if this is what we want to do.
Well, actually, that is one of the great things about AHAC is we have gone from a board that just basically took info from the city, just looking at a PowerPoint, to actually talking about issues. We have a few planned speakers to come and talk about specific issues. So it's actually really becoming a good force.
I second that.
Okay.
I think you are the best person on this board to serve on that, so.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Enthusiastic support. We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it, everybody. And we talked about this last week. Next year, the FRA conference will be held in Tampa, and Brenda Thrower of our CRA staff is the incoming president of the FRA. I propose that we adjust our calendar so that all board members can attend next year. So that would mean in October, we have 5 Thursdays.
That's fine.
So, however, you say that's fine until you realize the 5th Thursday is actually Halloween. So having a day workshop session, no problem, but then evening session, I don't know about you, but I love trick-or-treaters. I love handing out candy. I mean, and some of us, yeah, well, that too, but some of us have kids or grandkids so I'm not quite sure what to do about the evening part of that. But I think that we could, I don't know if we're allowed to simply, since that's the alcohol permitting night, to just move those to the next alcohol permitting night, or if we just don't have them. I mean, they go pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Can we bump them up during the day?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think so, no, because people want to come after work if they have an issue. So I don't know since this is so far in advance, I don't know if staff could maybe divide those between September and November. So we don't have to have a night session, because I know staff would appreciate being able to celebrate with their families as well.
Good teacher planning there.
That's very good.
So I would say, so the motion is to cancel that night session and divide that workload amongst 2 other night sessions?
No, not cancel, just.
Well, no,
reallocate
yeah,
nights.
so basically, the cancel the night session and let staff figure out how to allocate, but just letting people know far enough in advance that they can plan for it.
No, we certainly can do that. I just want to make sure council's aware that there are mandatory notice requirements for that public hearing, so that does drive kind of how those things are scheduled. So I just,
So clearly we're well within
Yeah,
that.
the range.
Well, but when they filed it and when it's ready to go, you may be delaying some people a little bit further out than they would have thought.
It's a year though, right now, like a full year.
We're really getting into the details. It's a year, yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it
No,
now,
it's good.
so that we could.
We'll look at the calendar and see what we can do to adjust.
Okay.
We ask staff to come back to
Yeah,
us with a proposal.
But
It doesn't need to be a motion. No.
does it? Does it need to be a motion? Do we need to make an official comeback?
We need to do something so it doesn't.
Okay, so how about this? We make an official motion. How long do you think that might take for?
May I ask that you make 2 different motions?
Okay.
The first thing is you want to clear the deck for the daytime and nighttime of the 24th. If I suggest that you make that motion now.
Okay, I'll make that first. I move that we clear the agenda for both day and evening sessions for October 24th due to the FRA conference that will be hosted by the City of Tampa.
And if you could also have that, if you can, ask the clerk to put that in the calendar as such, so that when people see that
Yes,
date,
and can
they'll
you
know
please
why.
put it in the calendar as such? And I have the FRA conference and everything in my motion, so you will have that information. So there's that, and then,
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, ma'am, in your next motion.
the next motion is to have staff come back. How long do you think you would need to figure this out?
We just need to look at the calendar to see
Yeah.
right now if there's anything scheduled. If I need more time beyond the first meeting, let's do the second, let's do the second meeting.
When are you setting the calendars? So that if you can pick up.
The calendar is not set until the end of this year.
Okay, so how about the beginning of
I mean,
January?
Beginning of January. We
Because
can look
even
at-
if I put it on the 11th, I mean, it's not a fast, it's not a.
She's setting, the clerk is setting the agenda. What staff will do is, if she's setting the agenda, we'll come back at the beginning of January at your first meeting and let you know, are there any cases that are, if we have any pending that will be scheduled that far out
Okay,
or will be
because
impacted.
we only have 2 items on the 21st of December. Would that help you to have it ahead of time?
Could I ask, in my suggestion, the way we work the calendar, the way the clerk has traditionally, is she does a tentative calendar before it goes out and she distributes it. She distributes it to land development, she distributes it to council, to me, to the legal department, and then if there's any changes. But that way you know it's coming 24th, and we can make the decisions then.
And to be
So the
honest-
21st would be better?
To be honest, you really don't need to have a motion for staff to come back and report that. I
Okay.
usually coordinate with LaShawn and her
Okay.
team.
Excellent. Perfect. That is even better. And then I just wanted to, since there are no more motions, I did want to say that my absolutely wonderful, phenomenal aide Kelly Sharp is celebrating her birthday next Wednesday on the 22nd. So I just wanted to shout her out and give her a happy birthday. And I hope everybody enjoyed her birthday cookies today.
Yeah.
Oh, are there leftovers?
Yeah,
There should be, yes.
they are delicious.
ate them all.
Well, we tried. They're leftovers. Yes, sir.
Hey, I would like to make a motion to accept my Form 8B from the CRA meeting a couple weeks ago. I recused myself from an item related to the Tampa Museum of Art. I had no direct conflict, but to avoid an appearance of potential conflict, I recused myself.
We have a
Well, we
motion
know
and a
you love
second.
art, so it would be.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else, sir?
To, yeah, quick, I really, remember we went through the process of asking staff to look at security for council, and I've had no update since that ended.
Let me stop there.
Wait, he's gonna
I
bring it
do
up.
have an update for you, and after the meeting, I will give it to you.
Okay.
Unless you stay, I don't think we want to have a discussion on security at this point, but I think we have a resolution, and I am communicating it to council members offline because it involves security, so I'll be talking.
But I would just say, we gave a lot of input to staff, and there are a lot of physical and rule structure things that need to change, and that has to be a priority, considering everything that's happening these days, so.
Okay, when I ask you and your aide to set aside time, hopefully we'll be able to get that resolved.
Okay, yeah,
very
I just want to
quickly.
make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Also, the issue of artificial turf came up. I would like to have a discussion on the rules regarding artificial turf and the environmental impact at the April 24th workshop.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything else, sir?
Yeah, the other thing is, I heard the end of the meeting last week where I think Councilmember Vieira tried to make a motion regarding the Ybor situation, and staff said that we should defer that to December 7th. Nobody's briefed me still on the situation that happened. I'm getting a lot of second, third-party information on what's
There was
happening.
another arrest made today. It was announced by the PIO, but.
But I don't know if it's a motion or what, but I'm told that the mayor in a couple of meetings recently has said that that city council has done nothing to act on this, and I think we have lots of ideas on things to do. We would like to get more information before we make a quick
Right.
decision.
Well, we
And-
had the community meeting with, this week, and so Chief Burkhardt is supposed to be coming back.
Yes, and one thing you missed this morning was in talking about the shot spotter, there had been $280,000 allocated in the budget before the grant was approved, and we talked about bringing that back and using that $280,000 for like a stay and play on Friday and Saturday nights to just start having somewhere for teens to go. So we're gonna have that discussion coming up.
All good stuff.
So that's, I just want to let everybody know that's something that affects all of us. I think probably each of us would like to make some motions and move forward. But in the context of criticism, even internal, that we haven't made a decision, I think there are plenty of things we could do if we had better information. So I just wanted to put that on the table. We could make a decision today, or we could make a decision next week. But I hope that we can all work together and get better information so we can make good decisions for our community.
Agree with that.
Council Attorney Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, just a reminder, Council, I had talked about this previously. I'd like to ask Council to consider a special discussion meeting, perhaps, was it December 9th, is it?
December 9th would be a Saturday.
No, then I think it'd have to be, oh, yes, I should remember that date, December 7th. And it would be, let's say, for instance, a half hour from 8:30 to 9 in the mascot room to do the kind of housekeeping. I've had an opportunity to work with Ms. Lucas and Ms. Edwards, and we have really, frankly, a menu of some very good suggestions to make your meetings smoother and more efficient, and we'd like to present those to you. I don't think it's appropriate that we do it and take time in the afternoon, such as today, after a long meeting. So I'd like to do it, if you would not mind, to set that aside on December 7th, and if you are so inclined to make that as a motion now, I could have that notice. Did you want to chime in on? Wait a second. What was that?
You've done it in the past.
What? To do what? A half hour?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to work with you and I'm going to work with Lisa to put together a little menu and a pre-meeting packet to show what your options are.
Yeah.
And we can go down very quickly and come to a consensus very quickly. There will be now.
I think we can make that happen, yeah.
And I will specifically inquire of your office as to the source of those donuts.
Oh, Tim gets good.
There's one council person that's not going to be happy being here so early in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but
no,
I
don't
also
be
know
cute.
that, yeah, that's true, but I also know there's one council member that has a very high standard of donuts.
Correct.
So I will be in conference with you. Okay,
We
well,
have
if
a
that's,
motion
if that
from
could be a motion,
Councilmember
please, yeah.
Hurtak. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Vieira, all in favor? Aye.
And again, that's December 7th, and that's going to be down in the Sister Cities room at 8:30 a.m.
All right, anything else, sir?
Yeah, happy
no.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Sir, in the red shirt, did you want to speak?
Please.
All right, if we could set 3 minutes on the clock. Yeah, please state your name, sir.
My name is Kevin Belikas. This has been a very interesting day. I didn't realize there was going to be such an extensive amount of the honoring of such a legendary judge, and then the lengthy discussion about the EDC and everything like that. I actually came down here today with the intent kind of just to get some better information. I've been trying to track down a way to get a right-of-way permit for my food truck so I can go back to work. I'm here today for the opportunity to continue to provide for my 5-year-old son. I am a disabled veteran, single parent. I had been operating in South Howard on the corner of Azeel Street and Howard. On the northern side of that, there is no utilities, no drainage, no fire hydrants, nothing like that being blocked in that area. Ultimately came to find out that my paperwork wasn't up to snuff. I've been trying to get that settled since roughly the end of August. I had an appointment to speak with Councilmember Carlson with the shooting in Ybor. Some things had to change, and I entirely understand that. I wound up having that meeting with your assistant, Ms. Maroney. I don't know exactly how to pronounce her last name. But I've been trying to follow up, find answers. My intent today was actually just to come down here and kind of be a squeaky wheel and figure out how do I get to yes to get this permit set up so I can go back to work and take care of my kid.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I think you came at a day that possibly, Ms. Travis, if you could direct him to the right person?
It's not my department, but.
And if I can, Mr. Chairman, just for the members of the public, there was a time that City Council did take public comment at the end of the day.
Yes.
That no longer exists, and as a courtesy to this gentleman who's waited so patiently, council does allow it. But just for the public to know that there is no public comment at the end of the meeting, and generally, and one of the reasons is one never knows.
Thank you very much. Motion to receive and file from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy-